Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Thursday, August the 31st, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. We are rocking, we are rolling. College football is officially back as Florida and Utah do battle tonight in Salt Lake City, Mizzou and South Dakota as well. 5 straight days of college football are upon us. I see C. Youngblood, Jeremy Gamecock Fanatic, Jay Shock, Austin Gregory, Hunter Kelly, G.A., Braddock, Brendan M., Ethan K., my guy, Souther LJ20. What's going on? Appreciate you all. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. Guys, change of plans in today's show. We're just switching some things around. Today. Of course, usually we have our guest in our second hour and our commentary, our topics, whatever to discuss in hour number 1. So, because of Marc Ryan's schedule, who is our weekly Thursday guest, he will join us in about 3 minutes or so, and we will talk with Marc Ryan for the majority of this first hour. Then, in our second hour, of course, we'll get into all of our topics that include our drive around the SEC. I'm locking in predictions for Florida and Utah, talking about the rest of the games this weekend. Also, we got top storylines for South Carolina, North Carolina. We've got key matchups as well. And then, of course, in hour number 3, we will get into your questions, your comments, your calls as well at 843-790-3377. Also, guys, I want to say thank you to JC, JB, and Phil over at Inside the Gamecocks. We just got off the air with them, had a great conversation ahead of Saturday's game in Charlotte, North Carolina. Just 2 days away from kickoff. Guys, let me remind you, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us there at the Spurs Up Show. And guys, again, thank you all so much for helping us to achieve a record-setting month of epic proportions. As of right now, for the month of August, we sit at 110,738 podcast downloads. A round of applause to all of you for your continued love and support. Those who tune in to the podcast, who tune into the Daily Crow, guys, I cannot say thank you all enough. Humbucker75 says, happy Fire Will Muschamp Day. Yes, in case you missed it, guys, it was this day 4 years ago that yours truly went on record the infamous or the famous or whatever you'd like to call it, Fire Will Muschamp rant. Shouldn't have a place to sit tonight in Columbia. The Fire Will Muschamp rant. We have reposted the video, and for better or for worse, yours truly was known as the Fire Will Muschamp guy. I'm happy that we are now 4 years later not in that position anymore, and that things with South Carolina football are on much more solid footing. Again, guys, thank you all so much. What a journey it's been over the last 4 years, man, truly. Either way, again, guys, if you cannot call and cannot conversate in hour number 3, make sure you do so right now at 843-790-3377. Anytime throughout the show, guys, you can leave us a voicemail. You can shoot us a text. You can shoot us a question, what have you, and we will get into, in the third hour, we'll get into all of that. Guys, do not forget, predictions are coming tomorrow. I'll predict South Carolina's game, of course, against North Carolina, but not just that, but the entire SEC weekend. I'll drop my game predictions for each of the games on the SEC schedule. So looking forward to that, guys. Again, appreciate you all. Going to really excited to lock in the prediction for the South Carolina-North Carolina game. And I'll say this, guys, I've actually got my prediction locked in. I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded. I know what I'm picking, but you guys have to wait until tomorrow to hear it. We'll lock in the picks each and every single Friday. By the way, guys, do not forget also the post-game call-in show will air on YouTube after each and every single South Carolina football game. After each and every single South Carolina football game, it'll air on YouTube within 10 minutes of the end of the game. You will hear the post-game call-in show. Very excited for the first one this weekend. You guys, I see we're asking about the bandana. Where is it? It needs to be framed. I used to have it kind of hanging in the studio. I forget where I think I just have it in storage now, honestly, which maybe is not a great place for it. But I do still have that bandana, believe it or not. I do still have that bandana. Guys, we await right now Marc Ryan of the Fan Upstate. Not exactly sure where Marc Ryan is currently. Either way, though, we await him. Going to talk all things week one of the college football season. And guys, I appreciate your patience as we wait on Marc Ryan to enter the studio. Not exactly sure where Marc is. Let's see. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. It is game day. Florida and Utah. Utah with their starting quarterback, Cam Rising. We'll talk more about that later in the show. And Missouri gets underway. Of course, they play South Dakota, so no drama there, really. But we'll get underway tonight. Guys, like I mentioned, it's week one of the college football season. I'm so excited. We haven't spoken to him in quite a while on these airwaves due to he being on vacation, I being on vacation. For the first time in what feels like a long time, we get him back on the airwaves, and he joins us every single Thursday. Marc Ryan of the Fan Upstate, he joins the show once again. Marc, what's going on, my friend? Great to chat with you. Like I mentioned, I know we spoke on your airwaves on Monday, but it feels like it's been quite a long time, my friend. Great to chat with you once again.
College football is here again, Chris. Yes. Buckle up. Over the next 4 months, there will be moments of joy. There will be moments where we are tearing at each other. That is the beauty that is college football. And my friends, we would have it no other way. Chris, we need a name for your audience. Should we, on our airwaves, we call angry Gamecock fans the Angry Birds after the game, after the game, you know? So what is the name for your audience? You know, like listeners of our show, they're the offsiders, right? What's the name for your audience? But anyway, guys, there will be moments this year where you want to punch me in the face. Perhaps you want to do so right now. There will be moments this year where you really like what we have to say. But realize it's all coming from a good place, and it's how can you not be incredibly excited about what Shane Beamer's building in Columbia?
Marc, in regards to the name for the audience, the only one that I feel like has really stuck is just the Daily Crowers. I mean, people have thrown that around, and unfortunately, the nicknames, it seems, more so have come for the bottom 10 percenters of the Angry Birds. We call them on Twitter the Carolina Slapdick community. That's what we've nicknamed them. So, gotcha. Yeah, not one that I think you can say on your airwaves, but that's one we say with pride here on these airwaves. Either
envious. Very envious of how you're able to get away with that. Yeah. I am not. Yeah,
Marc, if you want to be envious of what we're able to get away with and not, listen to the post-game call-in show on Saturday night if South Carolina loses to UNC. My friend, you will probably hear more F-bombs and more curse words than you've ever heard. I mean, I'm putting the over-under mark at 4.5 times that I get cussed out this season on the post-game call-in show. I think that's a fair number.
They are going to lose to North Carolina on Saturday, Chris. You know, that is going to happen. That's okay. It's not the end of the world, okay? Admission is the first step toward recovery. All right. I'm sure this clip will be repurposed, sent to Freezing Cold Takes if I am, in fact, wrong. Look, guys, I do believe it's going to be a close game. All right. I believe it's going to be a very, very close game. But I have concerns about where South Carolina is still on both lines of scrimmage. The question to me here entering this game, Chris, is whose defense is worse, right? Who has made strides in that area? And when all is said and done, look, I believe there's a reason North Carolina is ranked in the top 25 and South Carolina at this point is not. And I think most of the picks and prognostications on this, Chris, are right on the money, actually. You know, it's like North Carolina's a 58% chance to win. North Carolina's a 2.5-point favorite. It's like, as I think about this game, I see perhaps a tie game late with North Carolina and Drake May driving for the game-winning field goal. I mean, that's how I see it playing out. It also wouldn't surprise me, Chris. The over-under this game was 64.5. What? They're like, it wouldn't surprise if you need a first-digit 4 to win this.
Mark, you look at the quarterback battle, like you mentioned, Spencer Rattler and Drake May. There are other factors for sure. You mentioned the defenses, but what are you looking for specifically between those two guys? Because you've got a pair of quarterbacks. The ceilings are extremely high when they're at their best, but we've seen both be inconsistent. How much of this game do you think is factored in on simply just put the performance of those two quarterbacks?
Yeah, no, look, I actually believe, Chris, all of the intangibles in this game are working in the Gamecocks' favor, right? Why? Well, Spencer Rattler used to be the projected #1 pick in the draft. What happened there, right? Like now it's Drake May, Caleb Williams. That's got to really motivate Spencer Rattler. Then, everyone's telling you, well, if you're a Gamecock fan, you just at Clemson. You just won at the ACC champion. So you can't beat North Carolina. They're going to be in the top 25. We're not going to be in the top 25. I believe those motivating factors are really working in South Carolina enough. North Carolina has done.
All right, we are going to kick Marc Ryan here, and we're going to get him to jump back in the show. We are losing Marc Ryan. I don't know why I'm not able to kick him out here. Here we go. Okay, we're going to resend Mark this link. I'm not exactly sure what was going on with his service, with his internet. Here we go. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. We will cut this out of the podcast version of the show for sure. Either way, Marc Ryan going to join us once again. Good. Now, I want to get Mark back in here. Muschamp Hackers are working hard here on this Thursday. We'll see if we can get Marc Ryan back on the airwaves. We got some Gamecock fans, I think, hacking Marc Ryan's service. All that is happening on Muschamp Day. Are you guys able to hear me okay? I want to make sure it's not our internet. I think we should be good, though. Here we go. All right, we see Mark back in here. Let's try this once more. Marc Ryan, can you hear me all right?
I can. How is this?
Okay, awesome. Yes, you're good. Okay. Yeah, we were really choppy. So anyways, you were talking about the intangibles, the motivation factor, UNC getting maybe a little bit more of the love, being the favorite. I'll let you pick it up from there.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I feel like the intangibles are working very, very well in South Carolina's favor in this game, right? Chris, we're always going to shoot straight with people. You know what I mean? I see some of the you got a lot of great commenters, you got a lot of great listeners, but some of the losers in the comments below, it's amazing to me how many people just want to subscribe to what they want to hear. Do any of you guys think for yourselves? Do you think for yourselves? You let everyone else do your thinking for you, right? My belief is North Carolina wins this game. It's not because, I've got some beef with Beamer or anything like that. It's my belief, right? It's my belief. I think Drake May is that dude. I think Mac Brown has been at North Carolina longer than Shane Beamer, right? And I feel like that's going to be seen on the field. And I feel like North Carolina's taken the whole offseason to work on that defense. So I like North Carolina close. There's a lot of people that like North Carolina close, guys. Doesn't mean you're a hater, Doesn't mean a hater. I know you want to just live in a world with guarded and black glasses on, but sometimes, every once in a while, get out, see the rest of the world. It'll be good for you.
So, Mark, based on your pick, if South Carolina is going to win and go against what you have predicted, it'll be because of what? What do they have to do to maybe overcome some of the things that you think are going against them in this ball game? What specifically will South Carolina have to do to win this football game?
Yeah, man, control the line of scrimmage, Chris. And I think, DeCarry and Joyner getting 100 yards on the ground would be an incredible, how excited are you to see him like in that featured role? in terms of the different ways they could use him. Is this going to be like a Percy Harvin, Deebo Samuel type of role? Is it going to be more of a traditional running back role? Look, because you consider it, Chris, I mean, you consider what they're able to do with him, whether it be, a running back screen pass or, there's so many there's so many gadget plays you can run with him. And he's just got a diversity of skill set that you'd be a fool not to utilize. Right. So I'm super excited to see him and how he is utilized in this offense. If the line of scrimmage can be controlled, if he's got 100 yards on the ground, if South Carolina is really kind of running the ball all over North Carolina, taking pressure off that maligned offensive line and Spencer Rattler, that's where I see South Carolina could win this game potentially. And if they do, I mean, Chris, I feel like there's more pressure on North Carolina in this game because to a degree, South Carolina could lose this game and still have a halfway decent season, right? If South Carolina wins this game, now you're looking at the rest of the game. Now Mississippi State is not a trendy upset pick for the Gamecocks to lose. Now you're saying, wow, we beat North Carolina 38-24. Now you're looking at Florida as a surefire win. Missouri's a game you expect to win. Mississippi State's a game you expect to win. Maybe now most people think you have a chance at A&M, a chance at Tennessee. Remember, I picked South Carolina to win at Texas A&M, right? So I think there's a path forward here for South Carolina, and that's why it's such a close pick nationally and what the analytics people are telling you.
Mark, how important, I know we just spoke on the quarterback battle, but how important do you think this game is for Spencer Rattler from the standpoint of, I think no matter what happens, Drake May is looked at as a Heisman hopeful, but definitely a surefire, a surefire NFL draft pick, top 5 pick, whatever it might be, first rounder. The jury's still kind of out on Spencer Rattler. And the question mark all offseason has been, well, is he more of the guy we saw in the first 10 games or the final 3? How big do you think it is? How important for him do you think it is to have a good game in this one? Because you know as well as I do, the narrative's going to go one way or the other.
Yeah, look, Chris, I think that's everything, honestly. You know what I mean? I mean, that's everything for the Gamecocks in this game. And again, this is the first step, Chris, towards addressing that stat that we gave you and your audience in January, that the South Carolina Gamecocks were the only team last year ranked outside of the top 100 in rush offense and rush defense that had a winning record. I'm sure Beamer's aware of that, right? I don't hear any of the Homer local media telling him that, but I'm sure he's aware of that, right? The only team in America ranked outside the top 100 rush offense, rush defense that had a winning record. So it would seem to me like North Carolina is a great team to work on that against with their maligned defense a year ago. So what are we seeing on the lines? Does this look like a game, Chris, where the SEC talent that South Carolina has is just obvious and it's just evident? I mean, does it look like that? Are they controlling the line of scrimmage, or are we saying, well, there's really not much difference, ACC and SEC, in this matchup? Interestingly, Chris, and I apologize because I don't remember where North Carolina was off the top of my head, but one of my favorite charts of the year, Brad Crawford, our friend, sent me a text yesterday, and he said, Mark, I know you love this. I wanted you to be the first to have it. Texted me the 2023 team talent composite, which looks at the entire talent on the roster and gives your roster a ranking for every player on the team. And South Carolina's 22nd, and Florida is 15th heading in the year. So, Chris, the talent is there. The talent is there. I mean, the talent is there to have a really good season for the
Mark,
Gamecocks.
UNC was 17th, by the way. I don't know if you missed that. They were actually ahead of South Carolina, believe it or not.
Oh, UNC was 17th?
17th.
You did see that. How about that? Okay. Okay. Well, every year, Chris, in 2019 when I got here, Florida State was 9th and they were awful. You know what I mean? And I love that list because it shows you who's getting more out of less and who's getting less out of more, who's got real deep program cultural issues that they're working through That was Mike Norvell in Florida State, Willie Taggart then in 2019, 2020. But yeah, North Carolina, number 17 overall. Chris, I mean, look, have you made your pick official yet on this
I
game?
will do so. I will do so tomorrow. I picked this game in the summer when I did my game-by-game predictions for the season, and I did pick the Gamecocks to beat North Carolina. And, not much has changed on both sides. That doesn't mean I did not change my pick, but I'm going to be saving it for Fridays every week, but you could probably do the math. So,
well, look, it's interesting, Chris. We both had the Gamecocks 7-5. I had them losing to UNC, beating Mississippi State. You had them beating UNC, losing to Mississippi State. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Like, are there any Gamecock fans out there that actually believe North Carolina is going to win?
I don't think it's really true fans. I don't think so. That's what makes this fascinating, Mark, is I have not seen, like, the two respective fan bases both think they're going to win, which I guess when you have a coin flip game, toss-up game, that's sort of how it works, because most folks, like you mentioned, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to come at anyone, but most folks can't look at it objectively. I think it's a coin flip game. I mean, I really do. Like, neither result would shock me, right? Like, neither result. If North Carolina won this game, if you told me Spencer Rattler didn't play very well, or the run game got stymied and Rattler threw 2 picks and UNC won 34-24, it wouldn't shock me. Or if you told me vice versa happened, the reverse happened, and South Carolina benefited off turnovers and they won 34-24, 38-24, that wouldn't shock me either. So I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's a one-score game. I think it's truly a coin flip. I don't want to say it's as simple as which quarterback plays better. That's what it comes down to. I think the running games are very important, like you mentioned, controlling line of scrimmage. And I think that's one of the reasons why earlier in the summer, I looked at South Carolina more favorably, because does UNC have the bodies up front to expose the deficiencies that are South Carolina's line of scrimmage? And maybe they won't be this year, but at this point right now, until anything's proven differently, you have to look at them that way, right? So I'm not sure UNC has those bodies, but they do have great athletes on the outside, and they do have a great quarterback, which always gives you a chance. Mark, I wanted to ask you this. You touched on it briefly, but, to your point, even though it shouldn't happen, it will happen. A lot of folks are putting so much stock in this game in the sense of it's the most important game of the year. It's the make or break game of the season. We cannot have a successful season if we don't win this game. What are your thoughts on that? And does South Carolina have to win to, quote unquote, pop in year 3 of Shane Beamer, as you mentioned so often?
Yes, they do. They do. Chris, are you familiar with Kelly Ford?
I am.
Are you guys
yes.
come in for the Daily Crowers? Are you guys familiar with Kelly Ford? So he gave me some numbers on South Carolina yesterday, and his analytics, again, don't like South Carolina. Now, I like Kelly Ford a lot, but he says South Carolina has a 1% chance to win the SEC East. Their most likely record is 6-6. That's their most likely record. There are 57% chance to be bowl eligible, and there is just an 11% chance that South Carolina wins 8 or more games. And I closed with him, Chris, by kind of putting his feet to the fire a little. But I said, Kelly, your analytics were wrong on this team last year. Wrong. So I said, if they punk your analytics system 2 years in a row, will you at least come out and say that the Gamecocks, people should pay no attention to my analytics when it comes to this team? Like, this team destroys my analytics model. Because if they do it 2 years in a row, Chris, they deserve that. 11% chance, Chris, to win 8 games or more. You and I all offseason, what have we said? The goal is 9-3. Successful is 8-4. Disappointing is 7-5. Failure is 6-6 or below. That has been my criteria, your criteria. We agreed on that the entire offseason. We're not going to change it right now. So if 7-5 is disappointing, Chris, then yes, this is a game you got to win. You must win this game. I still do believe, Chris, as well. We asked yesterday, does South Carolina have another top 10 win in them this year, right? And you already know you have Georgia and Clemson on the schedule. Might A&M, might Tennessee be top 10 when those games are played? South Carolina seems good for at least one of those games each year. So if you do trip up and lose to a Missouri or a Kentucky or a Mississippi State, that makes up for that. But I think any model that has South Carolina 8-4 or 9-3 has them beating UNC on Saturday.
And I would agree with you, Mark. I don't know that there's really a path to 8 wins, certainly more than that, without winning this type of swing game. And you mentioned, Mark, the intangibles, and there are a lot of fascinating storylines in this football game on Saturday night. You mentioned De'Carrion Joyner. I don't think that's getting enough talk at all, the way he's going to be utilized. And I think he's, Mark, he's the most fascinating player in my mind, and the guy I'm most excited to watch this season, just how he is utilized and what he's able to do with his opportunities. But how much do you expect the intangibles to play a factor Saturday night? Because like you mentioned, we don't spend a ton of time talking about special teams. And when it comes to South Carolina, you have to, man. Beamer ball. It makes it so hard to predict, though, because you can't rely on it necessarily. But it's interesting how that tends to be a thing time and time and time again. You look at last year's season opener. Gamecocks blocked a pair of punts. I know it was Georgia State, but still, it would not shock me if we see that yet again if Beamer ball shows itself in Charlotte.
And the real value, Chris, too, of having your special teams actually be special is, think of the extra attention. What do you get? 20 hours of practice a week with your team. Think of the extra attention and worry that the South Carolina Gamecocks special teams create. From Frank Beamer to Shane Beamer, and everyone's saying we can't have a special teams play change the course of the game, and then with Shane Beamer, oftentimes it does, even if you're prepared for it. So, fake punts, what do you have in store? Block punt, you better have your block punt, you better have your punt protect ready to go against Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. What does he have up his sleeve, man? That's the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night, because special teams, Chris, is one of those things where between the 20s, you could be getting dominated in one or two special teams plays. You win the game, and we've already seen Shane Beamer do that, man. I think, man, are you feeling the same thing I'm feeling, Chris? The competitive juices are flowing, man. They're here. This has been an incredibly long offseason, but they're here, and it is now. And let me tell you, Clemson has themselves a really tricky game as well coming up on Monday. My message to Clemson fans would be, don't allow South Carolina to beat North Carolina and you guys trip up at Duke. I've spoken to some of my contacts at Duke today, Chris. They believe they're going to win the game. Okay? They believe they're beating Clemson. They're not there to make it respectable. Okay? Riley Leonard and company, they think they've got an under-the-radar Heisman Trophy candidate. They love what Mike Elko is doing. Like, they're coming to win that game. So, they're being quiet about it. Maybe I'm blowing the cover a little bit here, but they're being quiet about it, Chris. But there's a belief in Durham that they can spring the upset on Monday.
Mark, really quickly, what was your score prediction for South Carolina, North Carolina? I know you got UNC winning, but what was the score associated with it?
34-31.
Okay, 34-31. You mentioned the Clemson-Duke game. We'll get into that, and then, of course, I want to talk Gators-Utah with you tonight, of course, in Salt Lake City. You've got Clemson winning, but it sounds like you're pretty convinced that's going to be a back-and-forth close ball game. The spread right now, Mark, I think is Clemson's a 13.5-point favorite. Do you see it being much closer than that? And why do you think Clemson's able to steal that one in week one?
Well, it really, Chris, shouldn't be competitive, right? I mean, it shouldn't. But, Mike Elko really shocked the world in season one with Duke. They weren't expected to do what they did under him. And he's recruiting at Duke at a higher level than they're used to. Remember, this is a program back in the old ball coaches days that actually won the All Cupcakes Conference. They won the All Cupcakes Conference, Chris. So can they do it again, right? The answer is, of course, no. And Clemson, talent for talent on that team talent composite, Chris, I'm sure you noticed, Clemson was 5th overall, top 5. So it really shouldn't be close. But then again, Chris, Florida's number 15 and Utah's got it number 33. Utah's favored to win by 5 or 6 points, right? So the reality is sometimes a coach is able to develop his system, put players in his system, and that accounts for a lot. I don't think Duke is there yet, but I do think there are going to be Dookie wins over the Florida States of the world, the North Carolinas of the world during Mike Elko's era at Duke. The question is he ready yet? I don't know that they're ready to beat Clemson yet, but my point to you is, talking to them, they believe they can do it. They believe that Clemson is cruising for a bruise in Durham on Monday night.
And Mark, I'm siding with you. I'm picking the Clemson Tigers to win as well. I think it could be a close ball game. but I am picking Clemson to get the victory. Let's talk. Hey, we got SEC football. Week 1 begins tonight, Mark Ryan. 5 straight days of college football. So excited. Your Florida Gators going to Salt Lake City. No Cam Rising for Utah. And Mark, you and I were talking about this off the record. It is just wild to me that we spent the entire offseason basically carving out Billy Napier's tombstone, right? Like Florida's dead in the water. And all of a sudden, Mark, over the last 4 or 5 days, I just see folks picking Florida to win, to beat Utah. There's Florida buzz right now. What's your thoughts on this ball game? Is Florida able to go into Salt Lake City and get the upset victory?
I'm not qualified to comment, Chris. I'm not qualified to comment. Listen, I'm not going to come in here, Chris, and I'm going to pull how they do it on College Game Day when Kirk Herbstreit is calling the game, so he just gives the keys to the game. He doesn't pick the game. I'm going to give you that, okay? Because I can't come in here and ask for Gamecock fans to be objective. Are there any Gamecock fans that think North Carolina is actually going to win this game? And then come in here and just pick Florida. The last thing I remember, Chris, is, Florida against a team that didn't win the Pac-12, Oregon State, struggling to keep their scoring streak alive with a last-second field goal to lose 30-3 in a bowl game. That was embarrassing. That was pathetic. That was a joke. There's a reason so many people like yourself, Chris, I was deeply hurt, deeply offended to see you have power-ranked Florida as the second worst team in the SEC this year. What fans do this time of year, Chris, is they convince themselves for a way to have hope, for a way to be surprised. So what are you hearing? Hey, man, Michael Penix wasn't very good at Indiana. Then he transferred to Washington. All of a sudden, he's really good. Bo Nix wasn't really good at Auburn. Then he transfers to Oregon. Now he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. Graham Mertz, could he be? Could he be? I do feel like, Chris, unfortunately, Billy Napier could be the right guy at Florida. All right. In life, there are reasons and there are excuses, right? There are reasons and there are excuses. Florida has the most difficult schedule in the country. Florida next year, Chris, has the most difficult schedule in the history of college football. Look it up in the history of college football. All right. So it's very possible that Florida could go 6-6 back-to-back years, fans calling for his head, and Billy Napier's still the right guy for the job. That's very, very possible. If Florida is going to make anything of this season, if they have a chance of being something this season, without Cam Rising, you got to figure out a way to win this game. Chris, if you can't beat Utah, 33rd talent in America, and that's with Cam Rising, by the way, if you can't beat them without their Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback, I just don't see how anything above 5-7 or 6-6 is possible. At this point, if you're a Gator, you're in the SEC. Utah's a nomad, changing conferences. They don't have their starting quarterback. The expectation should be, if I'm on the Florida Gators, that we are winning this game. Will they win this game? The last thing I saw was losing 30-3 to Oregon State, Chris.
Mark,
what do you think? Does Florida win?
So I've actually locked in a prediction. I've got 23-17 Utah. I've spent the entire.
I'm never coming on this show again. How are you?
Here's my thing, Mark. The entire offseason, we have spent doubting Florida and, again, carving their tombstone, and Graham Mertz isn't very good. And I know it's the sexy thing right now coming into this one that you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot Florida beat Utah last year. No Cam Rising. And all of a sudden, do you think Utah's staff really just found out 2 days ago or yesterday that Cam Rising wasn't going to play? They've been preparing all fall camp for this. Game 1, Graham Mertz, I just don't trust him. I just don't trust the Florida offense. And I think Utah has enough on the line of scrimmage to compete with Florida. The elevation, Salt Lake City, Florida having to be on the road, I'm going to side with Utah. If I lose, it's on the Utah side. I have not, just because they don't have their quarterback, I cannot just completely change up my school of thinking and go with the Gators in this one. So I've got 23-17 Utah. You've seen the spread, by the way, plummet, right, from 7.5 to now 4.5. I mean, you're seeing folks that on 3, 24/7 go on record and pick the Gators. it feels like a situation, Mark, in which, again, lately they've just become that sexy upset pick now because some different things are kind of happening. I'm not falling for it. Let's just put it that way. So I've got Utah winning the game.
Well, and I think, Chris, also what we're undervaluing is just the setting that game is going to be in. You know, the home field advantage that Utah is going to have. And is that Florida team ready to beat a team of that caliber that has a lot of rims of last season's Pac-12 champion plus from Florida being on the road? Chris, if that game is in Gainesville, no Cam Rising, okay, I might pick Florida. Again, I'm seeing some of the commenters are saying, Mark, is there a pick in there? I listen, there's one team I struggle to be objective about. It's Florida. Okay. So I give you what I'm thinking. I'm showing you which way I'm leaning, right? And that's gotta be good enough. We'll see about putting a prediction on Twitter a little bit later at Marc Ryan on air. We'll see about that.
Marc Ryan, the Fan Upstate. Mark, last thing before I get you out of here, the best of the rest in the SEC Week 1. Of course, LSU, Florida State is the headliner. You have made it very clear that Florida State is frauds and LSU will dispose of them with ease. Do you stand by that going into Week 1? And then what else do you like? I mean, I think the other headliners, Missouri opens their season tonight. I think Tennessee, Virginia with Joe Milton, Game 1. Alabama, Middle Tennessee State. What does the quarterback situation look like? What are you most looking forward to in Week 1 outside of the games we've already discussed?
Okay, so, Chris, do you believe Florida State is legit?
Not to the standpoint of, I mean, I don't know if you saw my college football playoff predictions, Mark, last week. I've got Clemson in the playoff, so no, I do not.
I've got
and I caught,
Alabama.
By the way, speaking of being objective, I caught a lot of shit for that, but I really don't care. I think that Clemson's defense is still one of the best in college football. I think the Riley Klubnik thing is going to work. And I mean, to the point, the All Cupcakes Conference, like, who's going to beat them? They play Notre Dame, Florida State, and South Carolina, and those are their three. I mean, I know NC State's a tricky game, but realistically, like, if they get past FSU, I mean, who's going to beat them? So, I mean, they had a terrible year last year and went undefeated in the ACC and won the conference championship. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that with a much better quarterback and better offense that Clemson goes back to the playoff. I don't think that's crazy. But either way, continue.
Chris, my playoff 4, Alabama, Georgia, okay? Michigan and Clemson, all right? The SEC has played in every national championship game for the last 18 years. The SEC has won 13 of the last 17 national championships. That ends this year. Michigan is your national champion. 2023. They're the only team in that playoff foursome that doesn't have a quarterback question or a new coordinator or a new quarterback, everything like that. JJ McCarthy and company. I think this is Jim Harbaugh's team. They even have the anger of the NCAA slap on the wrist behind them. I just have this feeling, man, that this year is their year, but that's my playoff 4. Look, guys, do I think Florida State has gotten better under Mike Norvell? Yeah, I do. However, I don't think their talent is there yet. So I think, Chris, in that conference, as bad as it is, they could be sitting there with a record of 10-2 or 9-3. And everyone's hitting me with, and I told you so, Mark, that Florida State's really good. And then they lose the legitimate games that they play. You know, they got a bunch of wins over Virginia and Duke and Pitt and schools like that because Norvell has elevated them. They should have never been at the level of those schools, Chris. With the advantages that they have, they should have never been at that level. But, look, I think it's fair. Gamecock fans have said, well, if we would have been in the ACC last year, would we have won the ACC? You may have, right? South Carolina has more ACC championships than SEC championships. You may have won the ACC last year. This is not a great conference. So don't hit me with Florida State's record to validate what they are. Hit me with their performance against LSU, against Clemson. By the third week of September, Chris, I think Florida State has 2 losses, and I don't think we're talking about them anymore.
And again, Mark, I'll bring the conversation back to Week 1 in the SEC. Some things you're most excited to see in Week 1. Anything particular jump out to you from the schedule?
Brother, I can't wait to see Coach Prime. You know what I'm saying? Now, Chris, let me bring you into this here, okay? where everyone's excited about Coach Prime except who? The guys who he cut from the team. Now, I didn't even know what the rules were on this, Chris. I mean, did you know this? But you could, he went to play. He had meetings with players on scholarship, and he said to them, "quote I don't know where your future is, but it's not here." You know what I mean? And he said that to players on scholarship. Now, it has always been an unwritten rule that if somebody's under scholarship, you don't do that to them, right? So he's been very offsides, to steal our show name, with how he's run the ship in Colorado. And there's so much excitement about him that it's like people gloss over that. But there's a lot of players on that team, Chris, that were on scholarship that really felt like they got screwed over. And Chris, that roster is unlike anything we've ever seen before in college football. They've got half of that roster is 4 and 5 stars. The other half of that roster is walk-ons. You know what I'm saying? So that roster, Chris, is if like you or me got to be on the Gamecocks. You got to Kerryon Joyner, you got Nick Harbor, and then you got Marc Ryan and Chris Phillips running routes out there. That's what Colorado's roster is. I don't think it's going to be good enough to beat the team that made it to the national championship game a season ago, but I am fascinated to see that dynamic with Coach Prime and Boulderman.
Marc Ryan of the Fan Upstate. Check him every day, 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern at Marc Ryan on air on social media. Marc, happy college football season, my friend. We officially made it. Really excited to chat with you on your airwaves and have you on here weekly all throughout the college football season and beyond, my friend.
Hey, guys, we really appreciate it. I want to invite you guys to follow me on Twitter. I'd love to have you. It's Marc Ryan on air. That's M-A-R-C, Ryan on air. Let's have some fun throughout the season. Good luck week 1 against North Carolina. I always like when the teams we cover, Chris, fare well, So, it's good for business if South Carolina wins the game. I owe you guys 2 things, to be honest with you and to work as hard as I can on the show. You'll always get both. My honest opinion is North Carolina wins the game, but we will see. The beauty's in the banter. The fun is in the debate. Let's rock and roll, guys. We'll see you next week.
Mark, you're the man. Take care. Keep up the great work.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. All the best.
Great stuff from Marc Ryan. As always, he's locked in his pick. North Carolina beating South Carolina. What say you? Guys, we're going to jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, we're going to get into our conversation here on this Thursday. All that and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
That's your Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 31st, 2023, the final day in the month of August. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I want to say thank you to Marc Ryan, excuse me, of the Fan Upstate for always taking time to chat. Truly appreciate Marc Ryan jumping on the airwaves weekly, and I see you all in the comments, all of your commentary. Listen, I know some of you hate Marc Ryan's guts, but I say this, guys, the content's high quality. The beauty is in the banter. I appreciate Marc Ryan's perspective, and I urge you to do the same. And if you can't handle the banter, then go elsewhere. Either way, appreciate Marc Ryan taking the time. Going to have a lot of fun chatting with him, conversating throughout the 2023 college football season. Guys, with that being said, like I mentioned, we basically today just flipped hours number 1 and hours number 2, right? Normally we start out with our topics of conversation. We spend the first hour plus talking about those. And then hour number 2, we have our special guests, our commentary, whatever it is with whoever we have on the show that day. Now we dive into our commentary, our conversation. We'll be doing this weekly, by the way, guys, unless something comes up, right? Unless something comes up. What you can expect each and every single Thursday is this. We'll do our drive around the SEC, which will be a look at all the games that weekend. I'll talk about the games, give my brief thoughts on them, nothing crazy, of course, excluding South Carolina's game because we do our own commentary on that game. We'll also talk top storylines for South Carolina's upcoming game that weekend, as well as key matchups for the upcoming game. So every Thursday is going to look pretty similar, again, unless some breaking news or something happens, guys. But that's what you can expect each and every single Thursday here on the Daily Crow. With that being said, we begin our drive around the SEC Week 1, a packed slate of games, 14 SEC games on the schedule this weekend. And we start with tonight's action on Thursday night. Florida traveling to Utah, Salt Lake City, the Gators, who, you know, this game is so interesting because you got no Cam Rising on the Utah side. The Florida side, we have spent all offseason long talking about how porous this Florida team is. Graham Mertz is their starting quarterback, right? We ranked him 14th in our SEC quarterback power rankings. You know, we just ranked Florida 13th out of 14 teams in our team power rankings for Week 1. And lately, guys, you've seen it. This new momentum around the Florida Gators, and you're seeing one after the other, folks are siding with Florida. We've seen the Vegas spread tumble, right? From 7.5 was what the number was at, Utah as the favorite. It then came down to 6.5. Now that number's at 4.5, now that we know that there is no Cam Rising in this football game. I think this is an incredibly important game for Florida. When you look at just all the offseason narratives and everybody has just made up their mind that Florida is going to be a terrible football team this year, they have a chance to go out and prove that differently. Now, if Florida wins, I'm not saying they're going to be some 7 or 8 win team in the SEC, but achieving bowl eligibility for the Gators, you feel like that's almost a must in year 2 of Billy Napier. And admittedly, I took Florida under the 5.5, right? I locked in my predictions over the summer, taking the Gators at 5 and 7. And while the narrative has sort of shifted, again, the momentum around this game and the picks have come in, lots of folks all of a sudden in the last 3 or 4 days are picking Florida to win this football game. The Gators will have to lean on Montrell Johnson and their other running back, whose name is completely escaping me. Trevor Etienne. I was thinking of Travis Etienne. Trevor Etienne, the brother of the former Clemson running back. They will have to lean on that running game. I think Utah has enough in the trenches to give Florida headaches. I think this is a great game, back and forth, of course, being played tonight in Salt Lake City. I think this is a great back and forth game. I think it's a close competitive game. I am not ready to buy stock in Graham Mertz. I'm just simply, and I know that Utah, their starting quarterback is out. But do you really think that Utah just figured out that Cam Rising is not going to play? I don't think so. I don't think this is a blowout per se. I think Utah, though, wins the football game. I think Florida keeps it close. I just cannot trust Graham Mertz right now. Give me Utah 23, Florida 17 in this football game. I think the Utes get it done. I don't think we're talking enough about the elevation and having, Florida having to go on the road. What is this? First time they've played a non-conference game on the road to open the season since like 1991 or something like that. So I think Utah finds a way. They get revenge for last year in a time where everyone is picking Florida, it seems. I think Utah actually beats the odds in this when they get the job done on their home field, even without Cam Rising. 23-17 Utes get the dub. There's another SEC team in action tonight as well, guys. Missouri and South Dakota. They will do battle at Faurot Field in Como. I think Mizzou gets an easy dub, 34-6. How does Missouri handle their quarterback situation? I think that's really interesting. They waited until today to announce their starting quarterback, Brady Cook, which it's not surprising, but there's been a battle there with Jake Garcia, Sam Horn, and Missouri. I think the success of their season, I think it really comes down to, guys, the quarterback position. And do they figure that out? Because they've got a defense, as we saw last year against South Carolina, they've got a defense to compete with anybody. If they can get it going offensively, Luther Burden III, I think, is one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. If they get it figured out at quarterback, all of a sudden you're looking at Mizzou. They could be a 7, 8, maybe even 9-win team in the SEC East, but I think they get their season started off in very easy fashion, 34-6, taking down South Dakota. Now, guys, for the rest of the predictions, we will lock in all predictions on Fridays, by the way. I just wanted to go ahead and get those out of the way, though, because, of course, those two teams play tonight. We move to the Saturday action. Tennessee and Virginia in Nashville, by the way. This one's at Nissan Stadium, another neutral site game, similar to how South Carolina's taking on taking on North Carolina in Charlotte. Tennessee and Virginia will do battle in Nashville at Nissan Stadium. I've taken the over in this game, guys. I'm really curious to see, what does Joe Milton look like, right? In his first game, starting out the season, right? Coming into a season being the guy. I think Josh Heupel and company are going to want to make a statement, right? Virginia was a team last year. They actually were not too bad defensively. They hung around, obviously had that late season tragedy where they canceled their last 2 games of the season. Tony Elliott, though, I think is doing good things in Charlottesville. But this game's all about Tennessee, right? They're 4 touchdown favorites. Tennessee's going to win this football game for sure. But it's all about, how does Tennessee look? The question's not, do they win? It's, how does Tennessee look, right? Coming into a season with all these expectations, all of this hype, I think Josh Heupel and company are going to want to prove that that hype is justified. And so I think Tennessee, for them, it's, how does Joe Milton look, right? That's what the season's going to come down to for them. Does he show signs if he can throw the change up and picking up where the offense left off last year? And there's no Hendon Hooker. There's no Jalen Hyatt. We've heard all about what they've lost. But I think Tennessee is going to want to make a statement. I would expect to see that explosive offense yet again. Really excited to get that first look at Joe Milton as he enters this season as Tennessee's QB1. Kentucky and Ball State, another game in which Kentucky, a 26.5-point favorite. Guys, we've locked in Cats, by the way, minus 26.5. The Liam Cohen, Devin Leary thing on the offensive side of the football, right? What does that look like early on? Also, the offensive line, which was abysmal, not just in SEC play, but even in games like this. Kentucky's offensive line was atrocious last year. Do we see them get back to that normal Kentucky physicality, running the football with Ray Davis, Demi Sumo? I think we could see an offensive explosion. Kentucky and Tennessee similar in the fact that I think both need fast starts their season. I think both these teams are looking to start their seasons with a bang, and you like to have an opponent like this when you have a new quarterback, you have a new OC. I think Kentucky, I think the word of the day, and probably for their season, but certainly starting the year for Kentucky, is physicality. I think they want to be the more physical team. You know, you can talk about high-flying offense and Devin Leary and throwing the ball down the field, but they've got to get back to playing Kentucky football, being physical on both lines of scrimmage, and I think you'll most likely see them doing that. But I'm really excited, of course, the low-hanging fruit is to see the duo, Devin Leary, Liam Cohen. What does the offense look like? And does Kentucky just look like they're getting back their roots under Mark Stoops, which is being physical at the point of attack? Arkansas and Western Carolina, and yes, guys, as you can tell, a lot of cupcake games in week one, so you got to kind of dig in between. You got to dig through and find the storylines. You know, I look at Arkansas, Western Carolina. They're breaking in a pair, Arkansas is, of new coordinators, right? You talk about Dan Enos and that new offense and what's it going to look like. KJ Jefferson's going to be under center. Rocket Sanders at the running back position. How do they utilize him? You know, Arkansas secondary was so bad a season ago against everyone, by the way, not just the SEC opponents, what have you. I'm excited to see, has Arkansas made improvements there? How much can you really take away from this season opener in a lot of these games? I don't think you can draw conclusions, but always excited to watch KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, and see what those guys do. They are an electric factory to watch on offense. Cannot wait to see it in that new Dan Enos scheme. Kind of same thing, Ole Miss and Mercer, guys. I would expect Ole Miss going up and down the field. Does Ole Miss play more than one quarterback, right? Jackson Dart under center for them. He is going to be the starter, and it seems as if they are settled on him, but you've got Spencer Sanders, you've got Walker Howard, and also you've got that new Pete Golding defensive system. Does it look different schematically, right? I've heard Cole Kubelik talk about this. We've heard others as well. Ole Miss should be better against the run and defensively in general, just from a pure scheme standpoint, right? Again, you're not going to be able to draw conclusions. This is more of kind of that tune-up game for Ole Miss because they've got a big one in week 2 against the Tulane Green Wave guys. They got to go to Tulane, who was a very good team last year, beat Southern Cal in the bowl game. So this is not going to be some walk in the park, beat Tulane, what have you. That's a top 25 opponent. So really for Ole Miss, for Lane Kiffin's team, it's about ironing out the kinks in week 1, you know, being sure about yourself, you know, have something to feel good about, probably putting up a ton of points and taking down Mercer. But I think Ole Miss, they'll get the dub. Again, it's just how do they look? And you always like to open up your season against a cupcake like this. But excited to see Jackson Dart and just how much strides he's made in this offseason. We then move to the Plains. Auburn taking on UMass in Hugh Freeze's Auburn Tigers head coaching debut. And this is one, guys, we've hammered UMass plus 35. I think it's one of the best bets of the weekend. I really do. 35 is that's a lot of points in a coach's debut, right? I mean, I think Auburn, we all expect, should be able to handle business, but UMass has some nice pieces. Is there any way that UMass could keep this thing close enough to spoil the debut of Hugh Freeze and Auburn and what they're trying to do? So Peyton Thorne, starting quarterback, he won that job over Robbie Ashford. Excited to see how he looks in that role. You know, outside of that, guys, it's just what can UMass do against Auburn, right? Brand new team. They've got question marks, but you feel like Auburn's got high-end talent still. But I think plus 35 is a very, very easy bet. Excited to see how that game shakes out and how the Hugh Freeze era starts out. That game's actually, guys, on ESPN, a 3:30 kickoff. So a nationally televised game for game 1 of the Hugh Freeze era. And that thing's a sellout, too. It sounds like they may even break a record for attendance on the Plains, which is hard to believe. Mississippi State and Southeast Louisiana, another one, guys. A new era begins in Starkville. Unfortunately, the passing of the late, great Pirate. I'm just excited to see the beginning of the Zach Arnett era. And what does that look like? And, of course, they are going to a Kevin Barbay offensive system in which Will Rogers, no more air raid, right? I mean, they're completely reinventing Mississippi State football in the sense of especially the offensive side. Will Rogers is going to be under center. He's going to have a back turn to a defense, guys. 2 things he's never done before. What does it look like? You know, I think it's going to be this weird feeling watching Mississippi State where I think everybody is is pulling for State to do well because it's just such an unfortunate situation. And I think Zach Arnett was a great hire for them, right? And a great fit. And I think he's going to do really good things in Starkville, but it's just a really tough situation that he's taken over. If you're transparent, if you're real about it, it's a tough situation, man. I think Will Rogers is still one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. You look at State, they've got tons of experience. They've still got talent, guys. This is a football team that won 9 games last year. And I don't think Southeast Louisiana is going to give them much of a problem at all. But again, how does the offense look? What can Kevin Barbay do? Excuse me, I'm getting my offensive coordinators mixed up here. What can Kevin Barbay do for Mississippi State and in Starkville in that first game? Going to be really interesting to see how Will Rogers fares in that one and just what it looks like. Are there problems with a quarterback center exchange? Is it something where Will Rogers looks uncomfortable? Going to be really interesting to see how they look offensively in game number 1. The University of Georgia taking on UT Martin. Hey, game 1 for Carson Beck, right? A lot of new quarterbacks and a lot of new OCs, if you have not noticed in this one. I'm excited to see what Beck looks like. Hey, they got 2 new offensive tackles, Mike Bobo calling the plays, and a brand new quarterback. Does Georgia miss a beat? And also with those brand new wide receivers, do we see them get more pass happy than they've been in past years? They've got questions at the running back position as well. I think we all expect Georgia will roll, guys. The only hope that UT Martin has, I think, is get off to a quick start and punch Georgia in the mouth and make them play from behind and be on their heels. I just don't know that UT Martin even has the capability of doing so to the Georgia Bulldogs. So, I think we're all expecting the back-to-back national champions to roll in this one. But, again, how does it look? You begin a new season. All the off-season storylines are finally put to bed on Saturday afternoon when you take on UT Martin and, you get to on-field storylines and on-field topics and things to handle on the field versus all the off-field stuff we've talked about for so long. So I know Georgia fans, Georgia football, they're excited to get it rolling. They expect to win big, but like many others, it's just all about how you look in doing so. How does Carson Beck look? Does he look comfortable? Does it look like they have not missed a beat from the Stetson Bennett era? And then defensively, I would expect Georgia. I mean, I think they're expecting to be shut down yet again. They've got talent all over the football field. They will not be tested in week 1 against UT Martin. But going to be interesting to see Georgia begin a new era, if you will, and trying to do something, the pursuit of trying to do something that has not been done since the mid-1930s. Going to be interesting to see if Georgia can do that this season. Going to be a tone setter on Saturday for them for sure. You then move to College Station, Texas A&M, and New Mexico. And again, guys, once again, we go back to the offensive coordinator thing. The Bobby Petrino era begins in College Station. We're finally going to get our answer. Is Jimbo Fisher willing to let go of the reins and let Bobby Petrino call plays? Does it look different offensively? Because they've got weapons to make it work, guys. Aniyah Smith, Evan Stewart on the outside. They've got those dudes on the outside. They've got receivers that can be elite, right? They've got a fantastic running game. They've got big physical offensive linemen. I think Connor Wegman can be a top half at minimum quarterback in the SEC. But it's all about, are they putting that talent in the best possible position to go out there and make plays, and win ball games? How does Texas A&M look offensively? New Mexico, what type of threat do they really pose? We already mentioned lots of cupcakes in this opening weekend, but that's what all eyes are going to be on, right? And Texas A&M coming off that 5-7 season, they're looking forward to just washing out that nasty taste in the mouth that was that 5-7, getting back, starting the season off on the right foot because you got Miami in week 2. So for Texas A&M as well, it's about getting off to a hot start, feeling confident, feeling good about something after beating up on the Lobos. Vanderbilt, the only SEC team that's played a game thus far, they take on Alabama A&M in week 1 of the 2023 college football season. Vandy looking to move to 2-0. Guys, I think the big question marks are this, because we've already seen Vandy at this point. Do we see improvements in the running game? And does the secondary shore some things up? I mean, this is a game, if you're Vandy, you have to win this football game, right? If you're going to hit the over-under 3.5, but more importantly, if you're going to push for bowl eligibility, you have to take down Alabama A&M But do they get those two things fixed, guys? Because even if you beat Alabama A&M, even if you find yourself 2-0, if for a second straight week you can't run for more than 100 yards and you're in non-conference play, guys, you're not going to stand a chance in the SEC. I mean, you may not win an SEC game if that offensive line and that rushing attack does not improve. So can Vanderbilt shore up those two things? What does A.J. Swan look like? I thought he was okay in week one, continuing to utilize McGowan, utilize Shepard on the outside, and then again defensively for Vandy. They've got to tighten up in the secondary for sure. We then move guys, and this might be, honestly, there's some very obvious headliners we're about to get into. But when you look at these games, this is probably the most intriguing cupcake game of them all. Alabama and Middle Tennessee State, for the obvious reason, the quarterback situation. Nick Saban does not release a depth chart for the first time in 17 years. If you don't think that's significant, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Nick Saban doesn't even drop a depth chart because he doesn't want to deal with hearing the hype and the hoopla around who's starting at quarterback and this guy starting here and there, whatever. But why is Nick Saban avoiding that? It's questionable. Like, we don't know. I think Jalen Milroe, guys, from what we heard, most likely he is going to be QB1. I think he is going to be Alabama's starting quarterback. But that's not what's intriguing. It's who finishes the game at quarterback. It's who plays in the ball game. How do these quarterbacks look? Because you can bet your ass it's going to continue to be a quarterback competition. There's no doubt. It is a quarterback competition through this game against Middle Tennessee State. They will reevaluate after the game, and then they go into week 2 against Texas. And I'm not sure we're really going to know who the leader of this Alabama football team is under center until the second half of that Texas game when things get real and Bama's got to turn to their guy. And so we're going to find out who their guy is in that Texas game. But how does the quarterback position play out in this one? I mean, we all expect Bama to dominate Middle Tennessee State. They did beat Miami last year, so, maybe they could shock the world yet again. But life after Bryce Young, life after Will Anderson, and most importantly, that Tommy Rees offense, and what do they do at quarterback? When is the last time that Alabama went into a season with this many question marks, and especially this many question marks under center? I am fascinated to see what the quarterback position looks like. Do all three guys play? Do you see Milroe, Buckner, and Simpson? And what do they look like? And what are we talking about? Are there more questions going into week 2 against Texas, or do we finally start to get some answers when it comes to the quarterback battle in Tuscaloosa? Of course, guys, South Carolina, North Carolina, I think, is the headliner of Saturday. We've been talking about that game all week, and we'll continue to do so throughout the end of the week and going into Saturday as well. But finally, the headliner of week 1, I would argue, LSU, Florida State, Sunday night, not Monday. I know a couple of days ago I messed up my dates. LSU, Florida State, Sunday night, another neutral site game in Orlando. LSU is a slight favorite in this ball game. And the question I have going into this one, guys, is Florida State legit? Because I'm not sold on FSU. I'm not sold on the Seminoles. I like what they're doing under Mike Norvell. I really do. I like Jordan Travis as a player. They added so much on their offense. Of course, we all know about the Jaheim Bell edition. They've got the 6'7" kid on the outside and the mismatch that he creates. I mean, they are really talented, really good on the offensive side of the football. And they finally, for the first time, their offensive line is a strength, it feels like, for the first time in forever. Defensively, they're solid there as well. And then you've got LSU, who won the SEC West last year, but I don't think really closed out their season the way they wanted to, right? Losing to Texas A&M to end the regular season. Yes, they had the late explosion with Garrett Nussmeier against Georgia, but the game was well out of hand at that point. I am fascinated to watch this ball game Sunday night and just see this battle between Jalen Daniels and Jordan Travis on the other side for Florida State. Two elite offenses going at it, doing battle, but also I think two really, really good defenses as well. I think two really good defenses. I think this is going to be a really close back-and-forth game, guys. Really pumped to see it. And, of course, it is the headliner of Week 1, LSU, Florida State. And, guys, I think you could argue early on in the game or early on in the season, this is a game that is going to shape the college football playoff race. There is no doubt about that. When you talk about, I think this game is probably more important for Florida State because, again, they don't have an SEC schedule to bank on that, hey, if we lose Week 1, we can get this thing back on track. We have high-quality wins we can pick up. Florida State needs to prove to college football that they are legit. LSU, they lose a close one here, they can get back on track, but it is a massively important game for both sides, and I think a game that could determine the college football playoff this season. Guys, that being said, that is our drive around the SEC for Week 1. We're going to jump into another quick break on the other side. We keep the conversation rolling here on this Thursday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Special Dougie, hello Dougie, hello.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 31st, 2023. Going to appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in as we keep the conversation rolling here on this Thursday. Do not forget, upcoming our Q&A Power Hour. I want to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your calls, and more as we sit now, guys, believe it or not, just 2 days away from kickoff. I'm giddy, man. I'm giddy. I can't wait for toe to meet leather. I can't wait for the games tonight. I cannot wait for the games tonight. Florida, Utah, even Missouri and South Dakota. We've got Minnesota and Nebraska, by the way. Hammer the Gophers. -7. Marcus Satterfield is a bum. Nebraska is going to stink. Minnesota, -7. Take it to the bank. Either way, guys, make sure you join the Big Cock Club today, patreon.com/Big Cock Club. Or click the link in our bio. You'll see the Big Cock Club link there, guys. We're going to be watching all the college football together in the Big Cock Club Discord. That includes, by the way, South Carolina games. So be sure to join us in the Discord. That's patreon.com/Big Cock Club. Or click the link in bio, Big Cock Club, to join today, and we'll talk in the Discord. We'll watch college football. Going to be one hell of a 2023 season. Guys, with that being said, we turn our attention back to South Carolina, North Carolina, the matchup, the showdown in Charlotte. Top storylines for the Gamecocks and Tar Heels entering the season opener. The first thing you got to start with is this, guys. How about College Game Day hitting Charlotte and just the environment and the atmosphere? And, guys, I lived in Charlotte for 4 years, and I can tell you this. There are Gamecocks all over that city. I even believe that Charlotte is the #1 hub for Gamecock alumni to move to. So you already know the town is going to be painted garnet and black. And I believe this is the first time that South Carolina has gotten College Game Day for any game since 2014 when the Gamecocks took on Missouri. You cannot overstate the significance of that when you talk about Shane Beamer and company and building a program and putting your best foot forward and putting your program on the national stage. When you get College Game Day, they're going to be talking about Beamer ball. You know, Shane Beamer is going to jump up there and join the game day crew. It is going to be as electric an environment as it possibly can be for a neutral site game, right? I know a lot of us out there, we don't love these neutral site games. We prefer it be a home and home type series. You know, listen, admittedly guilty. I'm one of those. I would rather the game, go back and forth between Columbia and Chapel Hill. But it is really cool. College Game Day at Romar Bearden Park. You've got Bank of America Stadium right there. It's going to be absolutely awesome. And I cannot wait to see all the Gamecocks out there anytime you're playing in a game that gets College Game Day. Not that we needed anything to tell us, okay, this is a big game and what have you, but it just adds that extra level of excitement, of energy, of anticipation. And I cannot wait, guys, to wake up on Saturday morning, pour myself a cup of coffee, cut on the TV, and to see the scene out at College Game Day. It is going to be so much fun to watch before the game and building up that hype and anticipation to kick off. Guys, moving to on the field. One of the big storylines of Saturday night, we've been talking about it all off season long, but it officially begins around 7:30 or so at B of A. The Dowell Loggins era officially begins. We've been talking all off season. What's this offense going to look like under Dowell Loggins? Are they going to pick up where they left off last year? Is it going to be simplified? Is Spencer Rattler going to look more comfortable? What's it going to be run to pass? Are they going to be throwing the football more downfield, more vertically, if you will? We begin to get our answers on Saturday night. And I know there's no way to really measure this or to quantify this, right? But Has an offensive coordinator ever been under more pressure going into his first career game at a school? Because we've seen things, and I'm not talking about pressure that we're manufacturing, that we're making up. Guys, you've seen it on social media. You've seen it on the message boards. This is a make or break game for Dabble Loggins. How much pressure's on Dabble Loggins? Like, what does Dabble Loggins need to do to continue to win favor? Like, dude, it's literally his first game calling the plays. But that's how badly people want the offense fixed. And especially when you're bringing back Juice Wells and Spencer Rattler and a lot of your key pieces, and you factor in you're taking on a really porous UNC defense from a season ago, it's not going to fly with people to have a slow start. It's not going to fly with people, to come out of the gates and struggle and score 21 points and say, well, we're just installing our packages and we're just getting things figured out. This Gamecocks fan base is hungry for a good offense, and they're hungry for a good offense right now. There is no grace period, guys. As we've mentioned before, there's no grace period for Dabble Loggins. What does this offense look like on Saturday night? How comfortable does Spencer Rattler look? And do the preseason reports, the fall camp reports of, Spencer Rattler saying there's been no adjustment period and there's been more explosive plays, and Dabble Loggins saying, if Spencer Rattler plays the way he's been practicing the last 2 weeks, he's going to have an incredible year. Well, now it's game time. Does all of that come to fruition? And just what does this offense look like? Because, guys, as we've talked about, Shane Beamer's top priority in the next couple of years at South Carolina is solving the offensive side of the football. Saturday night's game is massively important for that unit. Guys, speaking of the offense, and I've already talked about him, though, Spencer Rattler, a quarterback duel for the ages, right? We can talk other parts of the game, and there are many facets of this ball game that are going to factor in when it comes to determining success or failure, right? We could talk line of scrimmage. We can talk Juice Wells. We can talk the status of Tez Walker. We can talk about the tight end position, moving to defense. We can talk about line of scrimmage up front on the defensive side. We can talk about stopping the run, the secondary. But as well as I do, the quarterbacks get way too much of the credit and way too much of the blame. And so whoever wins or loses this game, you're going to look directly at the quarterback position first. Spencer Rattler, Drake May, dare I say, it is the best quarterback matchup of week one. And I think it's going to be one of the best quarterback battles we get all season long. This is a great opportunity, man, for Spencer Rattler. And I think it's a bigger game for Spencer Rattler than it is Drake May. Because even if Drake May is pedestrian, he doesn't play that well, guys, the way he's viewed as an NFL prospect, I don't think that's going to change all that much. Like, he's considered a first rounder, maybe even a top 5 pick. That's how he's going to be viewed. Spencer Rattler has an opportunity to really win a lot of people over. And I understand he's playing a defense that's not very good. I totally get that. But the question we've heard all offseason long is this: which version of Spencer Rattler do we get? Do we get the one that we saw in the first 10 games? Or do we get more of the one we saw in the final 3? Do we get the inconsistent Spencer Rattler who is struggling to make good decisions and is not taking care of the football and is doing some of the things we saw earlier in the year? Or do we see South Carolina, or do we see Spencer Rattler pushing the football down the field and being aggressive and playing confidently and playing within his game and just not thinking and making plays, if you will, time and time again? On the UNC side, do we see Drake May? The same question could be applied to him as well, because we saw 2 versions of Drake May in the 2023 season, right? We saw Drake May be brilliant. 2022 ACC Player of the Year. We also saw late in the season, he did not fare well against some very lackluster defenses, right? Also, you factor in, he's got a new offensive coordinator as well. Like I mentioned, guys, these 2 teams are eerily similar to each other, right? You got Drake May, brand new OC. Which quarterback is best able to adjust to what their respective OC is asking them to do. So the battle of these two quarterbacks, the battle of these two gunslingers, it could be a situation as simple as whichever quarterback makes fewer mistakes, that's the team that's going to win the football game. Also, guys, you look at this game, of course, the status of Tez Walker is a major storyline, but also the status of both teams' top playmakers. Tez Walker for UNC, Juice Wells for South Carolina entering Saturday night. Of course, Tez Walker still battling with the NCAA. UNC has heard nothing on his status. And guys, as we know at this point, this is something that could carry all the way into, right before kickoff. He could be waiting and getting a decision. And, it's kind of unfortunate for South Carolina. It's really unfortunate for both sides, but especially the Gamecocks, to not know whether you have to face off against this guy. And then for South Carolina, guys, Juice Wells. Listen, he's healthy. By all accounts, he's good to go. But is he 100%? Is Juice Wells limited in any sort of way? Or is he his normal self, right? What are the status of those two guys? Because these are two players. These are two game breakers that are going to go a long way in determining victory or defeat. Very excited to watch these two guys, or if not, Tez Walker, excited to watch Juice Wells on the field and once again making big plays for South Carolina. Guys, another big storyline for me, again, like I mentioned, these two teams eerily similar to each other. The running game is a big question mark for both. South Carolina with major questions on their offensive line of scrimmage. UNC, though, same thing, guys. They were not very good. They were like 80th in the country in rushing offense. Did not protect Drake May all that well. And, guys, I don't need to remind you what South Carolina did last year. We have beaten that thing into oblivion. Which running game gets going first? And of those two teams, who is able to get something, manufacture a running game, if you will? Because if there's balance, both of these offenses can operate at a very high level. But that's a major if when you look at the question marks from last year and what these teams have returning. And, it's not a given, right? Neither team has an established RB1. I know DeKevrion Joyner's that guy for South Carolina, but guys, he's never played a game at the running back position, right? That's a huge question mark. Is it going to be running back by committee? Do we see DeKevrion Joyner take over in that ball game and really establish himself as the leader in that room? And then the UNC side, again, we talked to Andrew Jones at Tar Heel Illustrated, guys. They have no idea who their starting running back is. Elijah Green's a guy who was a nice piece for them. Omarion Hampton, another. They've got some capable bodies, but they do not have that bell cow running back. And so they're going to be sort of figuring things out and figuring out if they can get enough of a push against South Carolina's defensive front, who couldn't stop a freaking nosebleed last year. It's a fascinating battle on the lines of scrimmage. It really is, because these two teams are so similar in that regard. Neither one of these teams could run the football that well. Neither one of these teams could stop the run all that well. But something's got to give in Charlotte. Which side of the ball do we see win, and which of these teams is more able to manufacture a running game and stop the run in this one? Another big storyline for me, guys, South Carolina's defense, right? It feels like everybody's expecting this offensive shootout, this, both teams going up and down the field, and both these defenses have no hope in this ball game. But how does South Carolina attack Drake May? I think it's interesting. I think you're going to see this defense play with a chip on their shoulder. I really do. I think this defense is going to be really sick and tired of hearing about how Drake May is going to throw for 350 yards and UNC is going to drop 40 points. But how do they attack him? We mentioned yesterday, one of the keys to the game, you've got to make him uncomfortable, right? You've got to find ways to make Drake May uncomfortable, right? If he gets into a rhythm, he gets into a groove, I don't know that you stand much of a chance. Do we feel the impact already of a Travian Robertson, right? A guy, Gamecocks defensive line coach, brand new, that just took the job a couple of months ago. And I've mentioned this many times, guys, but the impact of, him playing under the late, great Brad Lawing. And, of course, guys, I had the opportunity to sit down with Brad Lawing and talk pass rush. And there's a real science to the pass rush. It's not as simple as, okay, let's just pin our ears back and let's try to get after the quarterback. The way you stunt guys, the way you flip guys, the way you position guys, like it is fascinating to see how it's really done. Is South Carolina, what do they do to get in the backfield and make his life hell? The first thing they have to do, right, stop the run, or at least slow it down and make UNC one-dimensional. Win on first down, win in the early downs, get them in some third and longs. Also, guys, attacking Drake May, South Carolina has to be better on third down. We talked about it last year, guys. They were abysmal on third downs, one of the best in college football. If you're getting them in third and longs, if you're making UNC one-dimensional, you're going to have a much greater opportunity. Drake May, though, can also beat you with his legs. So how do they account for everything that Drake May is able to do in that offense? Because, guys, he was UNC's leading rusher last year. Ran for almost 700 yards, which is absolutely crazy to think about. There's going to be a lot of stress on South Carolina's edges, right, to stop that, to contain Drake May. How much do we see South Carolina dial up exotic blitzes and do different things to send pressures and get after Drake May and put the pressure on their secondary? Like, hey, you know what? You're playing one-on-one. We trust you, but we've got to get after this guy. Because, guys, if you cannot get a pass rush with 4, you're going to have to send extra bodies. And I think, too, with UNC's offensive line, test them. Put the pressure on him, man. They weren't good at protecting him last year either. How much can the film show you from a season ago where you're able to get in the face of Drake May, maybe get him uncomfortable, make him make some throws he doesn't want to make? Because if you can do that, your secondary is going to feast. They're going to have a huge day, huge night, I should say, on Saturday. Guys, another big storyline, I think, anytime you come into a season opener, but certainly one like this, with the hype, the expectations, college game day, the pressure, do we see any first game jitters in game one? You know, these first games, they have a tendency to be really, really, really sloppy, right? Because all you've been doing is hitting each other, right? It's extremely tough for coaches, right? There's a reason why Shane Beamer complains about this, is because you don't truly know what you have until you see it on the field against someone else, right? That's why they have that cliche, a team's greatest improvement is from week 1 to week 2. Well, there's a reason that cliche exists, guys. It's because it's true more often than not. Which team is able to get over those pregame jitters, that hype, that adrenaline, that acceleration, if you will, and stick to the fundamentals and not make the critical mistake and not play outside of themselves? Because that's typically what happens, right? That's what happens when you get outside yourself and you get so amped and you get so hyped, and maybe you're trying to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. Maybe you're trying to do things that are uncharacteristic of what you do. So do we see those first game jitters first off? Do we see both teams hit the ground running? Maybe that doesn't happen, but if we do see the first game jitters, are there costly mistakes early in this game that play a big factor? And, do we see sloppy play? That's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to, is which team can avoid that sloppy play early on. And if it's UNC that's sloppy, can South Carolina take advantage of that? Finally, guys, my final top storyline for this one, Gamecocks and UNC in Charlotte. We're saving the best for last. You got to talk Beamer ball. Does it play a role early in the 2023 season, guys? It's one of those things. It's basically impossible to predict, right? But we've seen South Carolina, the intangibles. It doesn't matter what the computers say. It doesn't matter what the projections say, what the predictions say. The most important thing you can do as a football team, it's not how many points per game you score, how many sacks you acquire. It's, do you find ways to win football games? That's it. Do you find ways? And South Carolina, through 2 seasons under Shane Beamer, they found creative ways. And one of those is through Beamer ball, special teams. I think this game, guys, it's a coin flip game. I really believe this is a 50-50 game. I think this game could go either way. Does it come down to a block field goal? Does it come down to a block punt? Does it come down to a big return? Does it come down to a fake? I would fully expect, guys, in game one for Pete Limbo, Kai Kroger, that crew, Shane Beamer to dial something up and for us to see some sort of trickery in that special teams department. Does North Carolina counteract that? They've got a solid special teams themselves. Do they counteract that? Do they game plan for that? And do we see teams in this 2023 season, year 3 of Shane Beamer, do they spend more time game planning for special teams because South Carolina has been so good at it? So do we see Beamer Ball swing this game one way or the other via something like a block punt, a block kick, a big return? We saw it in game 1 last year, 2 block punts against Georgia State, and that went a long way in South Carolina winning that football game. Do we see Beamer Ball show itself yet again in Charlotte, North Carolina? Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Thursday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 31st, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, guys. We keep the conversation rolling. Do not forget, we got the Q&A Power Hour upcoming shortly, but we keep the convo rolling. I'm talking key matchups entering Saturday's game. South Carolina, North Carolina doing battle in Charlotte, North Carolina at Bank of America Stadium. What key matchups will go a long way in determining victory in South Carolina's 2023 season opener? And while it is the low-hanging fruit, it is the most obvious and the one that we must start with: Spencer Rattler against Drake May. We mentioned earlier, guys, in our previous segment, the quarterback battle. This is a duel for the ages. And while there are many other storylines, there are many other factors in this game. I don't want to make more of it than what it is, but the bottom line is this: whichever quarterback plays better, whichever quarterback limits the mistakes, that is more than likely the team that is going to win this football game. On one hand, you have Spencer Rattler, the disrespected Spencer Rattler, a guy that the jury is still out. You've got some in his camp that think he's all-world everything. He's going to break out and have his best season yet at the collegiate level. You've got some that think he's just the same old guy. He's turnover prone. He's an average at best college quarterback. On the other side, you've got Drake May, who seems to be the media darling, right? I think that's probably the greatest reason why North Carolina is favored and has been favored in this game. It's a not so subtle secret. Drake May is viewed in a much more positive light than Spencer Rattler is, despite his lackluster ending to the 2022 season. I think this is going to be the quarterback battle of week one. I think it's going to be one of the best quarterback matchups we see in this entire 2023 college football season. And while there are other storylines that are very important, right? How does each line of scrimmage perform, right? A lot of what these guys can do depends on what those big uglies do up front. So line of scrimmage is important, generating run game, playmakers on the outside making plays, offensive coordinators, whatever it might be. But when you boil down to it, guys, what we're more than likely going to be talking about on Monday is the quarterback position and which quarterback outdueled the other. I think there's so much to gain here for Spencer Rattler. I really do. Because Drake May, no matter what happens, he's going to continue to be viewed as a top 5 NFL draft pick and, a guy who could potentially win ACC Player of the Year again and sort of the darling in the media continue to be. Spencer Rattler, though, I think he can win a lot of people over if he can go out and pick up where he left off from the 2022 season. If he can show that big playability, take care of the football, but make big plays under pressure, I think all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of people buy into Spencer Rattler that maybe were not bought in before. So the battle between Spencer Rattler and Drake May, I think, again, it's going to be one of the best quarterback battles we see throughout the 2023 season. And I think certainly it is a key matchup to keep an eye on in this ball game. My second key matchup, we've talked a lot about running game, line of scrimmage, and slowing down the run. If South Carolina's defense can make UNC one-dimensional, You have to believe with the talent they have in that secondary, led in the back end by Nick Emanwari and DQ Smith, you have to believe that that secondary is going to be in a great position to make Drake May's life very difficult. A lot of that is stopping the run on early downs, first down, second down, getting UNC into third and longs. Are the Gamecocks able to clog up the middle and, again, make life very tough on a UNC offensive line that was not very good last year? They were better than South Carolina, but very, very slightly better. We talked about the UNC running back room. A lot of questions. I think Elijah Green is going to be their leader back there. Rushed for just over 500 yards a season ago. You look at the leader in the middle of South Carolina's defense, right? My attention goes immediately to the preseason All-SEC selection, Tonka Hemingway against Elijah Green, one of my key matchups in this game. And I think a huge matchup, because if South Carolina is able to stop the run and even slow down the run, guys, if they're able to stop the run in this ball game, again, you're telling me that UNC's only hope is to be Superman and Drake May has to throw for 350 and ball out and put the team on his back. If I've got to take Drake May in that scenario or South Carolina secondary, I'll roll the dice with the Gamecocks defensive backs. I believe in what I've seen from Torian Gray's unit over the last couple of years. And so stopping the run, at minimum limiting the run game, going to be pivotal. Tonka Hemingway, one of the best in the SEC at what he does. I think Elijah Green for UNC, a very talented player. I cannot wait to watch those players go to battle in the middle. Tonka Hemingway, Elijah Green, a showdown that'll go a long way in determining victory for sure. My final key matchup in this ball game, a pair of brand new offensive coordinators. We talked about Spencer Rattler and Drake May. We talked about Tez Walker and Juice Wells. We've talked about some of the other weapons for North Carolina and South Carolina. Which brand new OC is able to put his team in the best possible position to succeed? You know, there's a feeling that South Carolina, they upgraded from Marcus Satterfield to Dowell Loggins. What's interesting, though, on the UNC side, there's a feeling that they maybe have downgraded from Phil Longo to Chip Lindsey. And you talk to our guy, Dave Bartu of College Football Analytics, College Football Matrix, if you will. He breaks down coaching staffs for a living. And he mentioned that UNC, per the numbers, went from a top 20 OC in all of college football to a 120th ranked OC. How much of a drop-off is there for North Carolina? Then you've got Dowell Loggins, a guy that has never called a play at the collegiate level. No matter what you think about him, that's just simply the facts. Which offensive coordinator is most able to get their quarterback, their playmakers, their line of scrimmage, and their offense as a whole ready to produce at the highest level possible? Because I think most folks agree. Maybe this isn't going to be the shootout of, 56 to 53 or, as some are predicting, but this is going to be a game where the offenses are featured. At least that's what we're thinking. So there's no grace period, I would argue, for either OC. There's a lot of pressure on both of these offensive coordinators to take what they have and put a great product on the field. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to watch these two OCs work. Who's able to push the right buttons? Who's able to get the most out of their respective units? Because there's going to be one fan base after this game that's going to be very happy with their brand new OC. And there's going to be one fan base after this game that's going to be scratching their head wondering, did we actually make the right decision in hiring this guy? It's going to be a lot of fun. Dowell Loggins against Chip Lindsey What are my key matchups in this game? So again, guys, going back over these, my 3 key matchups I see playing a major role in this football game. Both the quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler against Drake May, Tonka Hemingway against Elijah Green, and Dowell Loggins and Chip Lindsey, the 2 offensive coordinators going at it in the battle of the Carolinas. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break, and we're going to dive into your questions, your comments, your calls as our Q&A Power Hour officially gets underway. All that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
That's your Dougie hoe.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 31st, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. The Q&A Power Hour is officially underway as we are taking your questions, your comments, your calls as well. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. Let's see. We'll get into your comments. In the meantime, how about this? Luke Slapdick RJ is about to call in. Luke, I would love to hear from you, my friend. Would love to hear from you. Let's see. DGD says, I picked y'all to win. Don't let me down. Hopefully the team makes you look smart, DGD. Hopefully so. Justin Martin says, hey, Chris, are you going for Florida or Utah? I got Utah. Hope Florida can cover the number. Yeah, I've got Utah winning 23-17. I think that's home field advantage. They've been preparing for no Cam Rising for quite a while, so I think they get it done. I just cannot trust Graham Mertz in Florida right now. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Justin, what's up, man? How are you?
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
Hey, Chris, how was your vacation?
It was great, man. Really enjoyed Montana. The sights, the scenes, the hanging out with family and kind of detaching and resetting. And it was a blast, but, really happy to be back and excited for 5 straight days of college football, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, Chris. Chris, I was out of town, too. I went to Charlotte, Hoboken.
You went to what now?
I went to Hoboken to see the scary, those actors playing scary people a long time ago.
I've never heard of that. No, I've not heard of that.
Yeah, because I saw Hoboken, Pinhead.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, you see Pinhead movies a long time ago?
I did not.
Oh, wow. So, Chris, you don't watch whole movies, do you?
Nah, not really.
Yeah, but I ain't good time at Comic-Con, Chris, but I'm back for football now.
Yeah, I'm ready for football too, man. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too, Chris. Hey, Chris, you want to do some pick swap, Chris?
Yeah, fire away, man. We'll do some picks.
Okay, Chris, we start with Florida, Utah.
Yeah, I've got Utah 23-17. I've locked that one in.
Yeah, I got Utah too, Chris, because listen, Florida's go to the West Coast. I'm not sure they're familiar with the Utah thing. Are they, Chris?
You said who you hold on now. You said what now? Who's a Utah fan?
I thought about Florida. They're not used to Utah.
Oh, no, yeah. The elevation change. Yeah, it's just going to be a different environment for them. So, yeah, I mean, I think that definitely plays a role. I still just do not trust Graham Mertz and this Florida team. So I'm going to ride with Utah even without Cam Rising.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I got to watch Utah, too, because I don't think Florida – they're not going to stop Utah's offense. You know that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Tonight, what about Missouri and South Dakota?
Missouri for sure. I picked a score 34-6, but I think Missouri will roll. They'll take care of business.
Yeah, I got Missouri too, Chris. I think Missouri's gonna put up 67-7, and Missouri wins big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then what's the next? Who's playing Saturday, Chris?
Well, we got Tennessee, Virginia. I mean, there's a lot of games, Justin. A lot of games. Let's pick the top ones. Let's pick the top games. We'll go Tennessee, Virginia.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take Tennessee to win the ball game. I'll expand more on the pick tomorrow. Who do you got?
I got Tennessee over Virginia because I don't know Virginia. I'm not sure Virginia are gonna start changing the offense. They could. They won series, and at the end of that, that's it. The defense is done, Chris.
Right.
You know.
Right. How about LSU, Florida State? That's the headline of the weekend. I I am taking, I'm going to say, Justin, these picks are for you, my guy. I'm saving my picks for tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're going to do predictions on Friday. So you tell me who you're picking for LSU Florida State.
Yeah, I got LSU, Chris, because I think LSU, listen, they were embarrassed last year when the guy bought the kit, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, they did. Yeah, and they want revenge for that season opener last year, too.
Yeah, and I got LSU. Look, they're going to get payback against Florida State. And I think it's going to be a close game, but I got LSU 21-20.
21-20, okay. How about Clemson Duke on Monday night?
Can Duke stop Clemson? Well, I hope Duke pull up against Clemson, but I know it's going to be enough to start that Grant Lawrence offense, you know?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I got Clemson over Duke. I'm sorry, Duke, but I got to go with Clemson, you know?
All right, how about final game here, a little bonus game. How about West Virginia, Penn State? You got any feelings? Or what are some of your favorite games of the weekend outside of the SEC games?
Well, I got Penn State over West Virginia. Look, I think Penn State needs to win bad to set off for the playoff, you know, Chris?
Right.
Because I'm not sure nearby's going to stay at West Virginia that long because I see nearby getting 5 new seasons. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think Penn State's going to get it done. I don't think West Virginia is all that good. But I will say, I think this could be a really good game. I think it could be a really, really good game. So I'm excited for it, but I think Penn State will get it done.
Yeah, I think so too, Chris, because I think Jay Baker wants to win this so bad, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yep.
Well, Justin, I think that's pretty much it for the week 1 slate, man. I'm looking forward to all the games, of course. 5 straight days of college football, and I know we'll have a lot to talk about this time next week.
Oh yeah, I do, Chris. Hey, Chris, before I go, man, what about soccer in North Carolina?
Man, I'm saving my pick for tomorrow, Justin. Like I just told you, I'm saving my picks for Fridays. That's when I'll lock all my picks in. So my best bet in that game's under 64.5. I think that's one of the best bets of the weekend. But in regards to game picks, I will be saving that for tomorrow's show.
Yeah, me too, Chris. I said my pick tomorrow about North Carolina soccer again, you know. But I can get one little detail. So, Chris, all soccer I got to do is stop the run.
Stop the run. Yeah, they stop. They're going to give themselves a great chance to win if they stop the run.
Yeah, and Chris, like you said, you can't put your defense at that position.
Right, for sure. Drake May will dice you up. There's no doubt. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm excited to lock in the pick, but more importantly to get to game day and get this thing rolling and just see what happens.
Oh yeah, I agree with you too, okay, Chris. It's Saturday. We're not in college game Saturday, you know.
Indeed. Now I'm excited to make content in the studio all day and rock the post game show, and it's just going to be a good time. Justin, you're the man. I appreciate you calling in. Let's jump to our next call here.
Call from
Cole.
Here we go. Cole, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Chris, how's it going? I only got one thing to say, and I'll make this quick. To hell with the Tar Heels.
I love it. Short, sweet, and to the point, man. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun Saturday.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. I'll be in the stadium, and go Cox.
Go Cox, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Short, sweet, and to the point. I can appreciate that. He said, to hell with the Tar Heels. To hell with the Tar Heels. All right, let's get into some of these YouTube questions here. Lots of questions, guys, rolling, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. Let's see. You guys did not take it very well that Marc Ryan picked UNC to win the ball game. Michael Googe says, who would return a punt further, Pistol Pete or Will Muschamp? My money is on Coach Limbo. Muschamp and the Tar Heels both enjoy coleslaw. That's literally what this text says. Muschamp and the Tar Heels enjoy coleslaw. I guess that's a diss. Let's see. Jeremy says, if Joyner has 100 yards, we are going to kill UNC. You might not be wrong. Let's see. Getting into your questions. Cameron says, definitely a coin flip game. Going to be a battle to the end. Looking for our special teams to make a play and get a touchdown or two on returns. If South Carolina does that, I think they win by double digits. I really do. I think they win by double digits. Let's see. Michael Lynn says, I think we're underestimating Joe Milton. Says his last 3 games were elite, but he did have Jalen Hyde. Are we underestimating Joe Milton? Jacob E. says, Virginia is rolling out an FCS quarterback as their starter. They're going to get absolutely hammered. We know something about FCS quarterbacks, don't we? Yeah, Tennessee is probably going to have their way with UVA. I will say that. Marquis says Kentucky is going to be legit. Got their OC back and their defense returns. They very well could be legit, my friend. They very well could be. Of course, they're my stock up team. I feel very confident in what Kentucky's going to be this season. Let's see. Gamecock Fanatic, over under Wells, 2 touchdowns or more. I'll go under 2. I think UNC is going to do everything they can to take him away. Great matchup in this game I didn't talk about, by the way, is Juice Wells and Elijah Huzzy, the defensive back for UNC they picked up out of the portal. He's a really good player. I think UNC is going to make South Carolina beat them going to someone else. That's easier said than done for sure. Easier said than done. Gamecock Fanatic says Tez Walker ruled out versus USC. Really? Has he been ruled out? Travis says, do you think Umia Zulu will get some action? I think so. I think he is in the rotation, no doubt. I think he's in the rotation. Yeah. I have heard personally no new word on Tez Walker. I've heard no new word. So unless somebody else has heard something different, I have heard nothing on Tez Walker. I can tell you guys this. I talked to my guys over at Tar Heel Illustrated yesterday, and they are still optimistic that he will be able to go. They're not as optimistic as they were, but they still feel like there's a chance he could play. Now, how much of that is just them holding out hope that it'll happen? Is it actually a reality? If he's not approved by now, I don't know. It just seems like maybe it's just not going to happen, right? M. Colt says, will Joyner throw another touchdown pass out of the backfield? That's a possibility. I think we'll see some trickery from South Carolina. Do not be surprised if, especially early in that ball game, you got Nikibrion Joyner in the backfield at running back. Do not be surprised if we see some trickery from the Gamecocks. Maybe Lenoris Sellers gets in for a package, and when South Carolina gets the goal line, I think you're gonna see I think you're gonna see South Carolina be the aggressor in this one. I really do. I think you're gonna see South Carolina be the aggressor, take it to UNC, and make UNC win the game versus it be a situation where you feel like you're kind of playing to lose or being conservative. And I think the Gamecocks are going to be very aggressive. Kins, the college pick'em group is called Beamer Ball to the Moon. Beamer Ball to the Moon. That is the college pick'em group. It is a public group, I believe. USC edits. No dub. We're going to see some trickery. Our offense is going to be tricky in general. Okay. Fair enough. Another text here. We got a text says, Tristan Mole. He says, do you think Lenoris could see some snaps late in this weekend's game, or will he get more playing time versus Furman and Jacksonville State? I would say far more playing time against Furman and Jacksonville State. If you see Lenoris Sellers in this game against UNC, it is because South Carolina is up big or down big, or they're putting him in for a special package. But I don't see any scenario where you're just inserting Lenoris Sellers to do so. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but I would not be stunned if Lenoris Sellers saw the field in some sort of package. I mean, again, you got to get creative, guys. If you're trying to run the football and everything, and you get down to the goal line and you're having trouble, like, why not give a chance to a guy like Lenoris Sellers, a big body dude who can make something happen on the goal line? Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Thursday, taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 31st, the final day in the month of August. Let's see. We had a couple of missed calls during the break, so y'all be sure. I think Robbie Davis tried to call in. Phone lines are now open. Got a couple of texts as well. Frank Scheffler says, or I don't know if Frank, let's see, Frank Schaefer. The Tar Heels, a.k.a. the Footmen, are going down. They like to eat potato salad sandwiches and Will Muscramp eats potato salad sandwiches, and Dabo Sweeney does not trim his toenails regularly. I heard this from an inside source. The text line is a mess sometimes. We got another text. Chris, earlier this preseason, you predicted Gamecocks defense to take a step back from last year. How do you feel now going into week one? Not much has changed for me. I'm nervous about the defense in some aspects. I think I feel maybe a little bit better about Marcellus Dial or Dono Fortune. I think that I just think at this point we're so conditioned to believe that South Carolina secondary is going to be just fine, right? Like there's going to be no issue there. I'm still concerned about the run defense. I am. I'm still concerned about it. It's basically the same group of guys from last year that gave up nearly 200 yards per game without Jordan Birch and Zach Pickens. You know what I mean? Like it's basically that same crop of guys. And at linebacker, I mean, it's practically the same guys there as well. I mean, Debo Williams, Stone Blanton, those guys listed as your two starters. If Mo Kaba's not coming back 110% and, then you're relying on a true freshman in Grayson Pup Howard, who I really like. I think freshman All-SEC is in the cards for him, but I still have my questions. I don't know that a whole lot has changed for me. And if you go back and look at the predictions, by the way, my friend, I actually predicted them, if you go by points per game, to take a slight step forward. And a very slight step, like a point or two per game. Nothing crazy, but I think it's going to be very similar to last year. I don't think the Gamecocks will be all that great stopping the run again. I think that's an issue that can only be fixed by recruiting and getting quality bodies. So I think that's one of those issues for sure. Let's see. Okay, here's some breaking news. South Carolina announces there will be an enhanced 2001 entrance this season with a new audio and video hype segment in pregame. Interesting. Let's see. Is there more on this? Let's see. Where is this? Where is this? I'm not seeing anything in this article. I don't know. Yeah, okay, here it is. Pre-game ceremonies on the field. Wow, that's cool. All right, let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Peyton.
Peyton, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How about yourself, Chris? What's going on?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's up?
We are about 53 hours away from kickoff, and I'm counting every second, man. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. But big game tonight. Who do you have tonight? I know. What's Utah's quarterback's name? Cam Rising.
Cam Rising. He's out.
Rising. Yeah. Rising's out. So if at all, does that shift your perception of tonight's game?
So I've actually locked in my pick. I've got 23-17 Utah. I went back and forth on it. I think that I just think it's interesting over the last 4 or 5 days. We spent the entire offseason basically spending time talking about how terrible Florida is. And then we get to game week, and it's like all of a sudden, now we're picking Florida to beat Utah. I know they don't have their quarterback, but I'll say this. Do you really believe that do you believe that Utah didn't know they weren't going to have this guy? So they've been preparing without him. Florida going on the road. I still just don't trust Graham Mertz right now. You know what I mean? I don't trust Graham Mertz. I don't trust Florida for those reasons. I'm sticking with the Utah pick. I think Utah finds a way on the home field to get it done. But I am, to your point, by the way, I am so excited for the start of the season. I am so pumped up.
Graham Mertz really he hasn't given much of a reason to put any faith in him, especially to try to carry this Florida roster through the dredges of an SEC schedule. He hadn't given much reason to give up much hope. I'll say that. But Utah's definitely going to be pumped up tonight, especially they have that game at home, and they played last year too, right? To open.
Yes, and Florida won in the Swamp.
Yeah, they've had this one circled. That's for sure. It's about like LSU and FSU. That one's going to be a hellacious game Saturday night. Is it Saturday?
Sunday night.
That's right.
Sunday night.
Sunday night. That's right.
Yep.
But we got some good football coming. I'm so damn excited for it, Chris. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's going to be a good time. Going to be a lot of fun. Again, I'm excited to start watching tonight and then all throughout the weekend, and of course the game on Saturday night with the Gamecocks and UNC. But there's a lot of great football on, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Has the SC UNC spread moved any? Is it still 2.5?
As far as I know, it's still at 2.5. I mean, I can check real quickly. I have seen nothing new on it. Let's see. I know the over-under is still at 64.5. That's for sure. So it's actually at 2. So maybe a little bit of money coming in on South Carolina. Yeah, so it's at 2. North Carolina is a 2-point favorite. So, but it was 2.5. So it was 2.5.
Well, hell yeah, we'll take a half point. But to talk a little bit about uniforms, man, I heard you mention yesterday, per sources, the black helmet, black garnet will not happen Saturday. So do you have any speculation? What do you think? Or what would you hope?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard what it's going to be, and I've heard it's going to be white garnet white, similar to exactly actually the Duke's Mayo Bowl combo. So, which would make a lot of sense. Yeah. Which would make a lot of sense. White garnet white. I mean, I think white garnet white is our most classic look, and to me that should be the default home uniform. But that's just me. So I mean, I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of white garnet white if that's indeed what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see white garnet white because that's any Spurrier moment that you think of. Mm-hmm. That's what we got on. Especially, I mean, the Wounded Warrior uniforms. Those are probably the coolest of that era. But it's the white garnet white. That's the classic look, man. That's what I grew up on. I love it. I think the matte black helmets are a little bit played out. Now they look really nice. They look cool, but I miss the white lids, man. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. I miss the classic stripes also. That's a conversation for another day, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, the temperature's kind of dipped off a little bit. I can feel football in the air.
Yeah.
That's always a plus.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful weekend in Charlotte for ball, man. I mean, you could not ask. I'd imagine like the weather at kickoff, you couldn't ask for a better setting than we'll have Saturday night.
What did JC said it was going to be like in the low 80s in Charlotte Saturday night?
Well, no, it's going to be in the low 80s for the high that day. So it'll probably be like low to mid 70s at kick or something like that. So it's going to be beautiful for sure.
Man, that's perfect. Well, I'll quit talking about the weather and I'll get off of here, man. I'll call you on game day eve tomorrow, and I'm so excited again, Chris. I can't wait for it. You take it easy now. Thanks, Spurs Up Show. Go Cox, buddy.
Peyton, I appreciate you, man. Always a pleasure. We'll talk soon. Great stuff from Peyton. We got our guy Robbie Davis trying to blow up the phone line. So, Robbie, if you want to give us a ring, they're open. 843-790-3377. Guys. Be sure, by the way, to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications when we drop new video content, when we go live. Also, of course, you can find the podcast at iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We're at the Spurs Up Show there. Be sure to check us out. A lot of good games tonight. Of course, the leaders in that are Florida and Utah, Missouri, South Dakota. We've also got Minnesota and Nebraska. That's a game I'm looking forward to. Also, guys, do not forget, or let me remind you, or let me tell you all, I should say, we haven't announced this yet. I will be jumping on a Twitter Spaces at 7 o'clock. It's all Gamecocks and UNC. So going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. You're more than welcome to call in. Let's get back into your YouTube questions here, and the YouTube chat is just off the rails today. USC Edit says, oh, here we go. We'll jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Luke Slapdick RJ.
to accept.
Luke RJ, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing good, Chris. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking what's going on.
So I just wanted to call in today and ask you about, have you made your predictions yet for the UNC game? Or are you saving that for tomorrow?
It is going to be tomorrow that I'll lock it in. Yeah, we're going to save the – I kind of polled the audience. Would they prefer me do it sooner or later or stick to Friday? And I think everybody wants to kind of keep it to Friday. It's sort of – I think it kind of builds up the anticipation of the week a little bit. So, yeah, we're going to save all the predictions for Fridays this season.
Okay. Well, that's good. You have a like a sense of where the game is going, even though you're gonna wait till tomorrow to give your prediction.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Luke. Yeah,
I was thinking.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking. Everybody thinks Drake May is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. So is he gonna show out, or are we gonna show up, and shut him down? I think that's like the biggest storyline is, can we shut him down like some teams in the ACC did last year, or is he gonna ball out?
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this too, Luke RJ. I mean, listen, it's not a secret at all. I mean, I dropped my predictions earlier in the summer, and I picked the Gamecocks to win this game 31-27. So, and how much has changed since then. I mean, some things have. So my score prediction, my prediction as a whole is subject to change from early in July, but that's where I was at that point. And, I've locked in Luke RJ, the under 64.5. I think it's one of the easiest plays of the weekend. I really think that this game's going to get off to a slower start than folks are expecting. I just think when you have two quarterbacks that are under two new OCs, they already showed they were inconsistent before, or can be inconsistent. You got two new OCs, two questionable offensive lines, two questionable running games. They're missing Tez Walker. Juice Wells is he at 100%? Is he not? We have no idea. There's just question marks on both offense that lead me to believe that, and I'm not saying it's going to be some defensive slugfest, but I could see this, in a season opener, the adrenaline's pumping. I could just see this getting off to a slower start. You know what I mean? I think this is a very competitive back and forth ball game. I think this is a coin flip game. I get UNC's and the ACC. I get that, but I don't buy the narrative they're a bad football team. I think Drake May's a real dude. I like South Carolina defensively more than I like UNC defensively. but I might like Drake May a little bit more than I like Spencer Rattler. So, you combine all those things. I think it's going to be Luke RJ a fantastic game. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the weekend. And, I think it's going to come down to the wire, really, truly.
Yeah. So I was thinking, my main thing is I hope we don't have a lot of 3 and outs. I mean, that's like, if we can move the chains a little bit every time we get the ball, that's going to be, good to see. If we're make a good stop, get the ball back, and 3 and out, and we're punting. I mean, that's what we saw the last 2 years with Satterfield. So even if we don't score, just move the ball a little bit and get some first downs, and then eventually we'll punch it in or score a touchdown or something or whatever.
Yeah, Luke RJ. I mean, there's no way in getting around it. This is a huge game for Dowell Loggins. It is. It's just fairly, unfairly, what have you. This is a huge game, man. It's a huge game. I mean, and that's not even just like me saying that, right, Luke RJ? I mean, we've seen it all over social media, and there's been message board posts of how much pressure is Loggins facing in week 1. He's got to get it going. Like, there's no excuse. When you're taking on a UNC defense that was so bad a season ago, you're going to have, if you go out there and you go lose 34-17, you're going to have a really tough time convincing people of, oh, well, give credit to North Carolina. They've improved so much defensively. Like, good luck convincing people that that's the case, right? So it's a big game. It's a big game for Dowell Loggins. And why is it so important? I mean, I think back to last year, Luke RJ. I mean, you were a guy specifically in the preseason who was so, fired up for the, you were so fired up for the season and so fired up for the prospects of the year and what the offense could be. And it took one game to break your spirit. It took one game to shatter it into a million pieces and shatter your hopes and dreams of the offense. And unfortunately, what we saw in week 1, it turned out to be a thing every single week. So I don't think week 1 is like it's, if Carolina goes 3 and out of their first drive, right? Like, the season's over and Loggins is terrible. But having a good performance, I think it is important because the competition is only going to get stiffer as you go throughout the season. You get an SEC play. It's only going to become more and more difficult to score at a high level. So if you can't do it against UNC, the question marks are going to be relentless following this game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 30 points. You would think, we need at least 30 points. Whether if that's on the offense or special teams or something. I mean, you hope the offense can at least score 30 points on its own for an exciting, fun game with college game day and everything. I just hope we're aggressive. I hope we're not, sitting back and trying to play field position and stuff like that. But man, you're right. It's college game day, first big game. Loggins is going to have to show up. I mean, he's going to have to dial some good plays because we may be able to hold Drake May back, but I'm sure he'll make some plays himself too with his reputation and everything. So we'll see.
I think UNC is going to get theirs, no doubt. I think UNC is going to get theirs. And, again, I'm not saying it's going to be a defensive slugfest. I just think the game gets off to a little bit of a slower start. But, I think you're going to see both offenses work, man. And it'd be a shame if you didn't, right? I mean, Spencer Rattler, Drake May, like, we want to see a fun, exciting game. And what's a fun, exciting game? Lots of offense from both sides. So I think you're more than likely going to see those two guys shine at multiple times. And, I again, as I said earlier, I really believe this is a fourth quarter game that could come down to who has the ball last. I mean, that really could be a reality in this one.
Yeah. Well, about the Discord and the Big Cock Club, if you love banter, join the Big Cock Club. If you love arguing and going back and forth and giving opinions, you need to be in there. You know, I used to talk to you back in the day about why do you interact with all these people? Why do you respond to everything on Twitter or whatever? And you kind of dialed that back a little bit, but I just started thinking less of me and more of Chris. And if you can dish it out, you better be able to take the heat also. But I'll always support TSUS, and beauty's in the banner, but sometimes it can get a little hectic if you have a bunch of opinions and want to change people's minds and stuff. But it's all love.
I appreciate you, Luke RJ. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. You're the man.
All right, later.
Great stuff from Luke RJ here on this Thursday. And yes, the beauty is in the banter, and we most certainly banter in the Big Cock Club Discord, and the banter is not for everyone. We'll put it that way. So, anyways, keeping the convo rolling. Let's see. We got a couple of texts here, actually, and Robbie Davis, for whatever reason, just cannot get his call in today. If we win the coin flip, what's your call? Receiver to first? I would receive. That's just me personally. Conrad Young says, what do you think our chances are against the Florida Gators this year, and how will Rattler perform? Also, who do you think would win in a foot race wearing Crocs? Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, or Billy Napier? We really need kickoff because the questions are starting to get off the rails. I will go Billy Napier in a Crocs race, and I think South Carolina beats Florida this year. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Robbie Davis is Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just trying to get my phone call in before I get dressed to go to the Charleston Southern game tonight.
Very nice. Is that game in Charleston?
Yes.
Nice. That's awesome. Y'all have fun. Be safe.
And I told my brother I was going. My brother that I said was an alumni of North Greensboro. He said, you better wear a North Greensboro shirt that says Christ makes the difference. I said, I'll try, but if I get beat up, I'll try and get depictions of who does it just in case.
You'll be fine. I don't know that there's many fights at a Charleston Southern North Greenville football game. I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Oh, but anyways, I think, I mean, this is cliche as hang, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Okay. If we are not able to run, if whichever team is able to run the football is going to win this football game Saturday night. Okay. If we can somehow force North Carolina in third and the next county situations, okay? And by third and next county, I mean like 3rd and 20 or 3rd and 15, okay? If we can somehow get it to where we know what they're going to do, and we stop the run, and we can somehow figure out a way to get pressure on Drake May, I definitely think we can win this football game. And if I was Clayton White, if I was going to blitz, I would not show it at all. Just tell my linebackers or whoever I got blitzing, I'm like, don't show. I want to try and confuse Drake May, and that's what I think we should do. But if he doesn't do it, that's fine. I trust Clayton White at this point. Our defense has been pretty, not solid, but pretty good ever since Clayton White got here. So I'm going to just trust Clayton White, and he's going to make the best decision possible for us to have a chance at beating North Carolina on Saturday night at 7:30.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, Robbie, how they attack Drake May. I really am, with the blitzes and just getting after him, because you're going to have to make him uncomfortable. You're going to have to. I mean, I've mentioned it many times. Anytime you're facing a guy like this, big-time quarterback, I equate him to facing like a big-time pitcher. those guys, if you're going to get them, you got to get them early, because once they get settled in, get in a groove, get in a rhythm, it's really hard to get them out of that. So Drake May, I look at the same way, man. Once he gets in a rhythm, it's probably going to be pretty tough to get him out of that. So if you're able to get in the backfield, contain him, don't let him beat you with the running game. And, if he's forced to, like you mentioned, in these third and long situations, if Drake May is forced to put this game on his right shoulder and win this game on his own practically, and it's he or South Carolina secondary I got to put money on, I'm rolling the dice and taking Torian Gray's defensive backs. I think they'll hold their own. I think they will be able to do enough to limit Drake May to get the victory.
Yeah. And if we can somehow, when we have the ball, keep Drake May on the sideline, that would help us tremendously. Okay. Now, do I personally want to see big plays? Yes. But also in the process, the longer he's on the sideline, him and his arm cannot hurt us at all if he's sitting on the sideline twiddling his thumbs.
Indeed. Yeah. Hey, arguably your best defense is your offense in regards to sustaining long drives and keeping him off the field. I agree 110%, Robbie.
So, and my prediction is still the same, 35-28 South Carolina. And my brother told me he'll give me his prediction hopefully tomorrow or before kickoff on Saturday. But, and part of me just thinks that North Carolina does not have the guys to cover our athletes in open field. I just don't think they do. If it happens, it happens. But personally, I don't think North Carolina has the guys to keep up with the weapons that we have on the offensive side of the ball.
Robbie, I just can't wait to see it play out, man. Going to be a ton of fun. I cannot wait.
I'm so ready for it to get here. You have no idea. I can guarantee you probably tomorrow night, I'm probably not going to go to sleep until probably close to 3 o'clock in the morning.
I love it. Well, I'm sure we'll hear from you in the postgame. I'm sure we'll hear from you in the postgame call-in show. That'll be a blast. So, going to be a good time. Robbie, I appreciate you calling as always, man. Hey, y'all be safe. Enjoy that game tonight in Charleston, Southern, and North Greenville. Y'all have a good time, man.
I'll make sure of it. I will talk to you hopefully Saturday night.
Indeed. Robbie, you're the man. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. You too. Have a good one.
Take care. Great stuff from Robbie Davis. Guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style, taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8800. 8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Final 7 minutes or so here in the Daily Crow. Taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We've got college football tonight. Cannot wait. In just over 4 hours or so, week 1 will officially begin. Minnesota, Nebraska kicks off at 7, but Florida, Utah at 8 o'clock. Missouri, South Dakota at 8 o'clock as well. Michael Googe says this: do you think the players will eat Hoppin' Johns for good luck before the game this weekend? Still waiting for the good luck to kick in from the ones I ate on New Year's. LOL, go fight, win, kick ass, go Cox. The text line and the comments are just off the rails today. Off the rails today. Guys, let me say this, by the way. Just one thing I want to address. Our guy, Luke RJ, he called in earlier and had some comments to make about the Big Cock Club Discord. I just want to clarify really quickly. We have a lot of banter in the Big Cock Club Discord. You can imagine it's like friends kind of going back and forth with each other, like poking at each other. but none of it's personal. None of it's even serious, I would argue. So it's one of those things where, yes, we have a lot of fun. The beauty is in the banter for sure, but it's all in good fun. We're all Gamecocks, and we all congregate, conversate, and come together and share a passion and a love for South Carolina football and sports in general. And so I just want to make it clear that the Big Cock Club Discord isn't some crazy, like a toxic environment or something like that. It's a lot of fun. Now, again, not everybody loves the banter. It's not a fit for everyone, but I think anyone who wants to join would be glad they did so. It is a good time. We all get along. We all get along well, and we have a lot of fun with it. So I just wanted to make that point, make that clear in case there was some confusion, and leave it at that. So anyways, guys, be sure again. Let's see. Be sure again. You hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content. Do not forget, guys, sorry, I just got a disturbing text. The TSUS post-game call-in show will air within 10 minutes of the end of the game on Saturday night. Be sure you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you get a notification of when exactly we go live. You're going to want to tune in. Going to be a lot of fun, taking your questions, comments, and of course, your calls is going to be the big feature during that. I cannot wait. I would expect the phone lines to be ringing off of the hook. And also, of course, check out the podcast. Drops every single day. You can find us at the Spurs Up Show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Really good stuff. Brewer Nation said, I left for 20 minutes and all hell breaks loose. I mean, Brewer Nation, you know that's how it goes, man. You know that's how it goes. I mean, hey, you know all hell's about to break loose this weekend, right? You know that's coming, right? Win or lose. Win or lose. Win or lose, Brewer Nation. Let's see. Continuing to go through the questions. Yeah, there were so many comments, guys. I appreciate you all. Austin Gregory said this earlier. With the season just 3 days away, I can't help but feel excited for 2024. I know that isn't right, but man, I'm ready to have some naturally talented big uglies starting for us. Austin, I hope that I'm doing this long enough to see the day when I come into a season and say, man, the offensive line, it's the strength of South Carolina's football team. Wouldn't that be awesome to come into a season and the line of scrimmage not be one of the major question marks on the football team? I don't even know what that feels like. I don't even know what that feels like, guys. I have no clue. M. Colt says, I joined the BCC during the College World Series. Discord is a lot of fun. Yeah, similar M. Colt to the College World Series. We'll be airing all the college football games, watching college football in the Big Cock Club Discord. So I'll say to you exactly what I said before. If you don't have SEC Network, if you don't have ESPN Plus, and you don't want to pay for those things, guys, we're going to be streaming the games in Discord. Don't tell anybody. Shh. We're going to be streaming the games in Discord, though. You can share video like that. It's very easy, very simple. There's nothing illegal about it. You join the Discord, and you'll get access to that. We'll hang out in the Hangouts and talk ball and conversate during the games. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. You won't regret it. You'll have a blast. It's going to be a ton of fun for sure. Let's see. Anyways, yep. Austin Gregory, I saw this. I saw that Mississippi State tight end denied eligibility 2 days before kickoff. Yeah, Mississippi State tight end Jorquarius Spivey, who transferred from TCU in the spring, not eligible this season. NCAA pulled the rug out 2 days before kickoff. I mean, it's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. It is. I just, guys, I know that a lot of fans out there are like, hey, thank goodness the Tez Walker thing, don't want him eligible. I can't side with the NCAA over a player. I can't do it, man. It's the NCAA is so incompetent at every turn. How anyone could side with them and give them the benefit of the doubt, like that sucks, man. That sucks. So yeah, that's brutal. That's brutal. You put all that hard work in. You're told one thing when you transfer that you'll be good to go, and then 2 days before a season starts, you're ineligible, or a month or whatever it is. It's just bogus. It's bogus, man. On that note, guys, hey, we've hit 3 o'clock. Appreciate you all tuning in, guys. Again, be sure, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content. Also, of course, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. You can find us there at the Spurs Up Show. The podcast all drop daily. And by the way, guys, the post-game call-in shows we'll be doing after every game, we're going to distribute those via podcast after every game. Those will drop on our feed, probably 5 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday morning. So you can go back and hear everything that we had to say in the postgame. Guys, we made it. Week 1 of the college football season begins tonight. We'll talk about all that and more tomorrow. We'll lock in some predictions, a huge show coming up on Friday. But in the meantime, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.